On the exact same night, you finally agreed to sign those divorce papers. Your cold-hearted wife miraculously decided to grace your bed with her presence. She slipped in and silently wrapped her arms around you from behind, holding on tight like a koala. "Drop the act," she whispered softly. "I know you're not asleep. You marrying me was just for a few cheap seconds of action, wasn't it?" Hearing those incredibly toxic words, your racing heart instantly turned to cold ash. Did you really throw away your absolute status as the crown prince of the capital just to marry into her family as a live-in husband for a few seconds of bedroom action? Seeing your total lack of reaction, Ara's expression quickly shifted into a mocking sneer. "Do I seriously have to spell it out for you? Tonight, you can do absolutely whatever you want to me. After all, you have taken care of me for 3 whole years. Just consider this my final payment to you." Hearing that, you finally couldn't hold back your disgust anymore and aggressively shoved her away. "Ara, are you completely out of your mind?" Hearing this sudden outburst, Ara looked at you with sheer, unadulterated disbelief. What did you just say?" Suddenly, she just couldn't comprehend the absolute enigma of a man standing right in front of her. For the past 3 years, she was absolutely dead certain that Silas was desperate to touch her. It was just that back then, for the sake of her precious first love, she completely refused to dirty her body. Yet now that she was actively throwing herself at him on a silver platter, he actually had the nerve to reject her. But before she could even begin to process the sheer audacity of it all, you forcefully pushed her right out of the bedroom. With your supreme, untouchable status in the country, what kind of incredible woman couldn't you get? Yet, this was the only woman you had ever given your true heart to, and she genuinely thought you were just lusting after her body. An overwhelming wave of sheer, sickening disgust rushed straight up your throat. Back in her own room, her face was a chaotic mix of deep confusion and utter humiliation. What a completely useless piece of trash. I offer my own body to him on a silver platter, and he doesn't even want it. What kind of man is he? Right at that exact moment, a maid knocked nervously on the door. "Boss Era, this is the warm soup Mr. Silas brewed for you. Would you like some?" Era waved her hand impatiently. "Just go feed it to the dog." The maid completely froze for a second, then spoke up very cautiously. "Boss Era, feeding this to the dog seems like a massive waste, doesn't it?" Hearing this, Era slowly shifted her gaze and glanced at the steaming soup bowl, resting in the maid's trembling hands. After a long, overly dramatic silence, she sighed. "Just leave it right here for now. I will drink it later." She secretly had to admit, ever since she got so sick, if she didn't drink the special soup Silas made, she literally couldn't sleep a single wink. The moment the maid left the room, Era quickly picked up the perfectly warm soup and practically downed it in one massive gulp. Immediately after, she quickly fell into a deep, comforting slumber. That night, Ara slept like an absolute baby. Early the very next morning, you dragged your heavy luggage out to an empty, desolate open field and made one single, life-changing phone call. Exactly 20 minutes later, a massive private helicopter descended from the heavens. A man in his 60s practically sprinted over to you, his whole body trembling with pure excitement. "Young master, this humble old servant has finally lived to see this glorious day." You just offered a warm smile and nodded your head. "Grandpa Barnaby, let's finally go home." The old man was named Barnaby, the fiercely loyal head butler of the Sterling family, the absolute wealthiest and most powerful family in the entire capital. And your real name wasn't Silas at all. It was Sterling. Barnaby looked at you and spoke with the utmost respect. "Wonderful. Simply wonderful. The master will be absolutely thrilled beyond words." Looking at his incredibly eager face, a heavy wave of deep guilt suddenly washed over you. Back then, just for the chance to marry that ungrateful woman, you had almost completely severed all family ties with your old man. Thinking back on it right now, throwing your entire empire away for a woman like that was a massive, unforgivable disservice to your father. Right around high noon, Ara finally woke up from her deep sleep. She looked over at the maids and casually asked, "Did Silas leave yet?" The maid just stared right back at her, looking utterly bewildered. "Silas? Who on earth is Silas?" Hearing this crazy response, Ara's eyes widened to the size of dinner saucers. "Wait, you guys seriously don't know who Silas is?" All the maids standing around her simultaneously shook their heads in confusion. "Miss, we have literally never heard of a single person with that name before." Now Ara was genuinely panicking out of her mind. "How the hell is that even possible? He is my ex-husband. We literally just ate dinner together last night. Did you all just catch some kind of collective amnesia?" The maids simply continued to shake their heads in denial. "Are you absolutely sure you aren't just remembering things wrong, miss? There has never been a person named Silas living in this house. And moreover, you have never even been married to anyone." "That is impossible," Ara roared out directly, aggressively cutting off their words. Then, acting like a complete madwoman, she began tearing the entire house apart, desperately searching for any of his things. She knew for an absolute, stone-cold fact that she had indeed been married, and they had literally just finalized the bitter divorce last night. There just had to be some sort of clues left behind, right? But after aggressively turning the entire massive mansion upside down, she shockingly didn't find a single damn trace related to Silas. Even all the old text messages and saved photos in her phone had mysteriously vanished right into thin air. She glared furiously at the terrified maids. What the hell is actually going on around here? If anyone dares to lie to my face right now, I swear I will fire you on the spot. Seeing that they couldn't possibly hide it any longer, the trembling maids had absolutely no choice but to spill the tea. Boss Era. Mr. Silas was actually the one who told all of us to do this. He said he didn't want you to retain even a single ounce of memory about him, so he strictly made us pretend we didn't know him at all. Hearing this soul-crushing truth, Ara's face instantly turned an ugly, ghostly shade of pale. Silas, do you really hate me that much? Even though I don't truly love you, we were at least together for 3 whole years. Even if you were just playing the role of my loyal lapdog, couldn't you have left me with at least one good memory? You are seriously so ruthless. Era lifted her head, her eyes flashing as she glared fiercely at the maids. All of you, get out. Right now, she just wanted some absolute peace and quiet, but for some inexplicable reason, she wasn't feeling the immense joy she had always anticipated. Instead, a heavy wave of melancholy washed right over her. And as for the reason why, she honestly couldn't figure it out. A tiny sliver of doubt slowly crept into her mind. Wait, could it be that I actually developed feelings for him? But that thought was swiftly crushed by her own massive ego. How could that even be possible? The only man I will ever love is my white moonlight, Tristan. He is finally coming back from overseas, and that cheap knockoff of a replacement has finally packed his bags. I should literally be popping champagne right now. Thinking of this, Era let out an icy, arrogant sneer. What is the big deal anyway? Silas. Oh, Silas. Just you wait. I will forget about you in the blink of an eye. Instead, you are the one who is going to drown in the absolute agony of losing me. Meanwhile, all the way back at the extravagant Sterling family estate in the capital, the head of the household, Arthur Sterling, was trembling with pure emotion. Sterling. My boy, is that really you? His voice was shaking like a leaf. Yeah, it's me, Dad. I am finally home. Arthur's eyes instantly welled up with tears. You stubborn little brat. So, you finally remembered how to find your way back home. I thought no one was going to be around to pull the plug on my life support in the future. You just lowered your head, your face entirely painted with heavy guilt. Dad, I am so sorry. I didn't listen to you back then, and I caused you so much worry. But Arthur just waved his hand dismissively. Ah, let the past be the past. But wait a minute. Did you come back all by yourself? Where is my beautiful daughter-in-law? Hearing this, you were completely dumbfounded. What, daughter-in-law? Arthur looked at you, utterly speechless. Who else could it possibly be? Era, of course. Weren't you the one screaming it is her or nobody back in the day? You even threatened to completely sever our relationship as father and son. So, why didn't she come back with you? Honestly, for the sake of his precious son, Arthur had already secretly accepted Era into his heart. At that moment, you finally snapped back to harsh reality and told him the cold, honest truth. We are already divorced. Divorced? Arthur's face instantly became a picture of pure, unadulterated shock. What the hell happened out there? Upon hearing that Era had used his precious boy as a mere stand-in for some trashy ex-boyfriend, Arthur couldn't help but let out a furious, cold snort. That girl could have been the luckiest woman in the entire world, yet she gave up the boundless ocean just to dive headfirst into a stinky gutter. All right, Dad. Let us just drop it. I really don't want to talk about her anymore. Did anything major happen at home while I was gone? Of course not. Arthur chuckled with absolute, unwavering confidence. With me at the helm, what major crisis could possibly happen? But then he paused to think for a second, and quickly corrected himself. Well, actually, there is one little thing. We are currently lacking a highly suitable executive for an upcoming project. You nodded in understanding. That is indeed a major issue. I actually have really high hopes for the investment prospects over in South River Province. Arthur shot his son a glowing look of high approval. Oh, so, do you have any good candidates in mind, son? You smoothly stepped up and nominated yourself. I can do it. Even though I was not home these past 3 years, I definitely wasn't just twiddling my thumbs either. I have been keeping a very close eye on all the domestic economic trends. Hearing this bold claim, Arthur suddenly looked a bit conflicted. Honestly, I also think you are the absolute most suitable candidate for the job, but Elara is based right there in South River Province. I am just afraid that. Of course, you knew exactly what your father was so afraid of. He was simply terrified that you and Elara would somehow rekindle your old, toxic flame. Dad, you can relax. I promise I will not be foolishly stubborn about her anymore. But Arthur was still feeling a little bit uneasy. Yeah, but that was before she knew your true identity. If you go back this time and she finds out who you really are, can you guarantee she won't come crawling back in tears with regrets? So what if she regrets it? Being incredibly stupid once in a lifetime is more than enough for me. Hearing this firm answer, Arthur happily slapped his thigh. Good. Very good. Now that is my boy. With you saying that, I can finally put my old heart at ease. Go pack your things. I will personally send you off to your new empire. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, after a totally grueling day of work, Elara finally arrived home. She kicked off her high heels and immediately collapsed onto the plush sofa in total exhaustion. Out of pure, ingrained habit, she yelled out, "Silas, hurry over here and rub my feet. I am absolutely exhausted." But after a long, deafening silence, harsh reality struck her. She had already divorced Silas, and he had packed up and left this house a long time ago. At that moment, a timid maid walked up. "Miss, Mr. Silas has already left. How about I massage them for you instead?" she offered quietly. Elara waved her hand in absolute annoyance. "No need. Is dinner ready?" Truth be told, she utterly hated having anyone else touch her feet. The maid quickly nodded. "It is all prepared, ma'am. Everything was cooked exactly how Mr. Silas taught us before he left." Ara's eyebrows immediately scrunched together in frustration. Why is his annoying ghost lingering absolutely everywhere? She thought bitterly. But deep down, she had to admit the food Silas cooked was genuinely mouth-wateringly delicious. She slowly dragged her exhausted body over to the dining table, but after taking just one single bite, she instantly spat it out in disgust. Ugh! Why does this taste like absolute garbage? The poor maid jumped in sheer terror and frantically tried to explain. "We were all trained by Mr. Silas himself. This is exactly how he used to make it. How could it possibly taste any different?" Elara absolutely exploded. If it's exactly the same, then why is the taste completely worlds apart? Are you all just slacking off on the job? The maid broke out in a cold sweat, paralyzed by sheer panic. "That's completely impossible, ma'am. When Mr. Silas cooked, every single one of us was standing right there watching his every move. The heat control, the fresh ingredients. Absolutely everything is completely identical. How on earth could the taste be any different?" Elara furiously hurled her chopsticks completely across the room. "Take this garbage back to the kitchen and remake it immediately. If you ever dare to serve me disgusting slop like this again, there's absolutely no need for a single one of you to keep your jobs." The terrified maids frantically cleared the massive dining table and desperately started cooking all over again. Who even knows how much time passed, but they finally brought out a steaming hot pot of braised meat. They placed it delicately on the table, with violently trembling hands. Elara took one tiny sip of the savory broth and immediately spat it right back out. "Wrong. It is still completely wrong." The terrified maids went as quiet as mice in the dead of winter. "Boss, should we try making it just one more time?" Elara wildly waved her hand, absolutely losing her ever-loving mind. "The taste is completely off. No matter how many times you uselessly remake it, it's still going to be wrong. Forget it. I am not eating this trash. Take it all away." Pacing back in her luxurious bedroom, Elara quickly dialed her bestie, Serena. "Serena, do you happen to have Silas's contact info?" On the other end of the line, Serena looked utterly bewildered. "Elara, are you totally crazy? You're seriously asking me for your own husband's phone number? I officially divorced him. When he left, he completely wiped out every single trace of his contact details." Serena violently gasped in utter shock. "No freaking way. You actually went through with the divorce? You're just pulling my leg, right? Wait, did he cheat on you or something?" Elara felt a sudden, massive surge of irritation. "It has absolutely nothing to do with him. I was the one who demanded the divorce. Because Tristan is finally coming back to the country." Serena found this ridiculous logic to be utterly incomprehensible. "Tristan, you actually divorced Silas for that absolute scumbag? Girl, did a massive fever completely fry your brain?" As her true bestie, Serena had witnessed firsthand every single sacrifice Silas had made over the years. Back then, when Elara was hitting absolute rock bottom and desperately needed a lifeline the most, Tristan got dead, scared of being dragged down, and secretly fled the country like a coward. If it hadn't been for Silas stubbornly staying by Era's side through thick and thin, everyone was absolutely terrified she might have done something incredibly foolish. Era scoffed with heavy disdain. Silas was only ever a temporary placeholder for me anyway. If he's gone, then he is gone. Tristan is the only man I truly love. No matter how incredibly hard it gets, I absolutely have to be with him. When he left me back then, he definitely had his own painful, untold hardships. I have waited completely faithfully for him for 2.5 years. I absolutely refuse to miss my one chance with him again in this lifetime. Serena was completely at a loss for words. Hey, suit yourself. I just really hope you don't end up bitterly regretting this. Era lifted her chin with sheer, unadulterated arrogance. I, Ara, have never done a single thing I regret in my entire life. Never have, and I never will. Hearing this bold claim, Serena asked tentatively, "Well, bestie, since you're now officially divorced from Silas, you wouldn't mind if I actually chased after him, right?" Hearing this unexpected question, Ara was caught completely off guard. Wait, you actually want to hit on Silas? Over the phone, Serena sounded completely matter-of-fact about it. I mean, he is an absolutely amazing guy. Now that you two are officially divorced, isn't it perfectly normal for me to finally make a move? Era forced herself to sound incredibly nonchalant. Do whatever you want. Honestly, if you two actually end up together, I'll even give you my heartfelt blessing. Serena laughed coldly. Keep your blessing. I don't need it. Just make sure you don't go crying and back out on your word later. Ara couldn't even be bothered to entertain this ridiculous conversation any longer. After quickly extracting Silas's new contact info, she aggressively hung up the phone. Lying wide awake in her massive bed, Ara tossed and turned, completely unable to sleep. She was clearly exhausted down to the absolute bone today, so why couldn't she feel even a single ounce of drowsiness? And why on earth did Silas's lingering silhouette just keep randomly popping right into her head? She smacked her own forehead in sheer unbridled frustration. She never imagined that on just the second day after Silas walked out, she would be hit with crippling insomnia. The very next morning, Era dragged herself into the corporate office, sporting massive, heavy, dark circles under her eyes. She couldn't even be bothered to eat a single bite of breakfast. For the next few days, she frantically cranked up her brutal workload to the absolute maximum limit. She desperately wanted to use this toxic method to completely numb her brain, to just stop thinking about that infuriating man. But she still felt like a deeply vital piece of her daily life was now totally missing. Honestly, it was all just trivial, mundane little things, but somehow, they were the most incredibly important things of all. This agonizing, soul-crushing routine dragged on for a few long days until today, when Era finally looked somewhat energized. Because today was the day Tristan was finally returning to the country. She meticulously dolled herself up to absolute perfection and drove straight to the international airport. You tightly grabbed your heavy luggage and boldly stepped right off the plane. Silas? Why the hell are you here? Didn't you completely disappear off the face of the earth? Oh, I get it now. You are totally stalking me, aren't you? At this very moment, Ara looked absolutely furious. She had originally come just to wait for her precious white moonlight, and she never in a million years expected to bump into Silas right here in the sprawling airport lobby. You gave Ara a freezing, dead-cold glare. Without even breaking your confident stride, you walked straight past her toward the lobby exit. Ara aggressively lunged forward, completely blocking your path. Silas, I am talking to you. Why are you stalking me? If you do not explain yourself right here and now, do not even think about walking away. You stopped dead in your tracks, your voice dropping colder than ice. Move. Ara felt her massive ego take a brutal hit. Silas, what the hell is that attitude? Why didn't you answer any of my texts? Why pull a vanishing act just to force your way right back into my life? You completely brushed off Era's absolute clown behavior, turned on your heel, and calmly walked toward another exit. Era scrambled after you and blocked you all over again, flashing a ridiculously condescending glare. Silas, just admit it. The truth is, you just cannot let me go. You pulling all of these stunts is nothing but a desperate, pathetic ploy to get my attention, isn't it? Right at that exact second, a woman's trembling voice called out from behind. Excuse me, are you Mr. Sterling, the new boss? Serena looked like she had just seen a ghost as she asked the question so cautiously. The top company executives had specifically assigned her to handle a VIP airport pickup today. But the moment she actually saw the photograph of the major VIP she was supposed to be escorting, she was completely paralyzed with shock. The guy in the picture looked absolutely identical to Ara's ex-husband. Yet, the bold name on the profile clearly read, Sterling. Ara stared right at her best friend, her face twisted into a massive mask of confusion. Serena, what on earth did you just call him? Serena looked incredibly panicked and awkward. Ara, let me introduce you. This is our brand new boss, Mr. Sterling. Honestly, her voice shook with pure insecurity as she forced those exact words out. After all, this mysterious Silas and the powerful Sterling looked way too identical to be a mere coincidence. If you really had to pinpoint a single difference, it was their raging auras that were literally like night and day. Silas was like a ridiculously warm, pathetic sunshine boy, but Sterling? He was a towering, absolutely unapproachable iceberg of a man. Ara's eyebrows furrowed so deeply in pure frustration. What do you mean, Sterling? He is clearly Silas. I lived under the exact same roof with that man for 3 whole years. Do you seriously think I would not recognize my own ex-husband? Wait a minute, your company completely changed owners? Serena leaned in and frantically whispered her explanation. I totally forgot to tell you, our entire company just got bought out. Rumor has it that the new boss is a massive, untouchable big shot, straight out of the capital. None of us even dared to dig around for the scary details. Era was absolutely buying 0% of this wild story. Are you honestly trying to tell me that Silas and Sterling are some kind of identical twins? Serena tugged desperately at Era's expensive clothes. Please stop causing such a massive scene right here. If the new boss fires me because of your insane tantrum, I swear to God I will end you. Only then did Ara finally look over at you, forcing a tiny hint of a reluctant apology. I am sorry. I really must have recognized the completely wrong person. It is just that you look exactly like my ex. I mean my old friend. You completely ignored Ara's pathetic rambling and coldly locked eyes with Serena instead. Let's go. Wait, just a damn minute. Ara arrogantly blocked your path for a 3rd time, Mr. Sterling. If you ever happen to run into someone who looks exactly like you out there, could you please pass on a little message for me? Tell him that I am actively looking for him. You stared right down at her with dead, freezing cold eyes. Why don't you just tell the guy yourself? Era let out a heavily dramatic sigh. I called him. I texted him constantly. He hasn't replied to a single thing. Maybe he just hasn't seen them yet. You scoffed right in her face, your expression practically dripping with brutal sarcasm. Have you ever considered the very real possibility that he just blocked you? Hearing those sharp words, Ara's pretty face immediately morphed into an incredibly ugly, twisted expression. Impossible. That loser would never dare to block me. Your expression remained completely flat and unbothered. I was just throwing it out there. Now, can we leave? Ara reluctantly stepped aside, fuming. Sorry. So sorry for all the unnecessary trouble. Just as you were finally about to leave, Tristan came jogging over from the crowd, waving frantically at Ara. Ara! Hey! I am over here. He dashed right up to Ara and dramatically dropped to one knee, looking exactly like a cheesy, melodramatic soap opera lead. My dearest, please marry me. I will spend my entire life cherishing you. As long as you agree to marry me right now, I will gladly give you everything I have, including my very life. At this exact moment, you, who were literally just about to leave the noisy airport, stopped dead in your tracks and shot a cold glance at the kneeling Tristan. Feeling the sheer suffocating weight of everyone's staring eyes, Ara's face instantly burned a furious, glowing beet red. She frantically winked at Tristan to stop. Get up. Hurry up and get up. We can talk about this when you stand up. Tristan just gritted his teeth and shook his head so stubbornly. I will not get up unless you promise to marry me right now. Otherwise, I will kneel right here until the day I die. At this wild point, all the random airport passengers witnessing this ridiculous spectacle started hooting and hollering loudly. Marry him. Marry him. Ara's face turned even redder with pure shame. She was way past the age of this cheesy, pathetic romance, and Tristan's dumb public stunt was giving her absolutely unbearable second-hand embarrassment. Please, just get up, Ara pleaded, her voice dropping as she practically begged the fool. Out of the very corner of her eye, she kept nervously sneaking glances right at you. Deep down in her delusional heart, she still fully believed you were Silas, painfully watching his ex-wife get proposed to in public. She thought that if it really was Silas standing there, he would definitely be absolutely heartbroken and completely shattered. But to her profound, crushing disappointment, all she saw was your icy face, completely, utterly, and ruthlessly unbothered. Could I really just be overthinking this entire thing? Era felt a deep, secret pang of bitter disappointment. Meanwhile, the kneeling Tristan was stubbornly sticking to his cheesy script. I am not getting up. Not unless you look at me and say yes first. Ara's brow twitched violently with rage. If you do not get up right this exact second, I am genuinely going to be furious. Hearing this, Tristan instantly shot up like a jack-in-the-box. Okay, I'm up. Please don't be mad. Right at that moment, Tristan finally noticed you standing nearby. He scowled and let out a nasty sneer. Silas, what the hell are you doing here? You couldn't even be bothered to waste your breath on him. You just turned around and started walking away. But who would have thought Tristan would chase right after you? Silas, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Oh, I get it now. Ara dumped your sorry ass and you just couldn't accept it. So, you stalked us, all the way to the airport. You really have zero shame, don't you? You truly had absolutely zero desire to speak to this total clown. Get out of my way. You kept walking forward, but Tristan had no intention of letting you go, jumping right in front of you again. Look at him run. I hit the nail right on the head, didn't I? That's why you're feeling guilty, right? You spoke in a low, dangerous tone. I said, move. Tristan snorted arrogantly. I won't move. What are you going to do about it, huh? What am I going to do? You let out a dark chuckle. You raised your hand and slapped him directly across the face. Smack. That crisp slap sent Tristan's brain straight to the shadow realm. He clutched his cheek, staring at you in sheer disbelief. You actually dared to hit me, you absolute bastard. Before the words even finished leaving his mouth, Tristan rolled up his sleeves, ready to charge at you. But before he could even get close, smack, another resounding slap landed squarely on his face. But this time it wasn't from you. It was from Elara. Tristan, have you made enough of a scene yet? Ara's eyebrows were knit so tight they could crush a walnut. She felt so utterly humiliated right now. With so many people in the airport, ever since she met up with Tristan, she had been trapped in an endless loop of cringe-worthy embarrassment. Why couldn't he just use his brain and think about her feelings for a single second? Tristan clutched his head, which was rapidly swelling up like a pig's, staring at Ara in pure shock. Elara, you actually slapped me for this useless piece of garbage, Silas. Elara couldn't hold back her roar anymore. I said, are you done causing a scene? He isn't even Silas. But Tristan wasn't buying it for a second. If he isn't Silas, who the hell is he? I flew back to this country specifically for you, and this is how you treat me. Ara felt a sudden, deep exhaustion wash over her. She spoke in a low, heavy tone. Stop acting like you're some noble saint. Weren't you the one who took the initiative to run away back then? Saying this, bitter memories of the past flooded her mind. If Tristan hadn't suddenly vanished into thin air back then, she wouldn't have been the laughingstock of everyone. And to be with Tristan now, she had even gone through with a messy divorce. What right did Tristan have to question her? She was actually starting to severely doubt whether the current Tristan was even worth all the sacrifices she had made. Compared to Silas, Tristan only ever looked at things from his own selfish perspective. But Silas actually cared about her feelings, always putting himself in her shoes. Had she actually divorced Silas for a guy like this? She was already heavily second-guessing her life choices. Tristan finally snapped back to his senses, cold sweat dripping down his back. That was a close call. He absolutely couldn't afford to burn bridges with Ara right now. After all, he still desperately needed her help. Otherwise, his overseas company was going to go completely bankrupt. Thinking of this, he hastily started backpedaling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Ara. It's just because I care about you way too much. That's why I lost my temper. I promise there won't be a next time. Please forgive me, okay? Hearing this, Ara took a deep breath. I was also in the wrong just now, but please believe me. The person I care about the most in my heart is you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have divorced him. It's just that I can't fully accept you just yet. Please give me a little more time. Okay. Tristan put on his absolute best fake deep affection face. Okay. From now on, whatever you say goes. I have all the time in the world. Even if you make me wait for the rest of my life, I am willing. Ara shook her head, a trace of affection finally showing in her eyes. You idiot. How could I ever bear to make you wait for the rest of your life? Watching the two of them exchange this nauseatingly sweet dialogue, you looked at Serena with sheer disgust. Let's go. At this moment, your heart felt absolutely nothing. Well, except for the sheer urge to laugh. These two were truly a match made in heaven. One got married, but kept someone else tucked away in her heart, and the other was an even bigger piece of work. He voluntarily abandoned her, yet now he was playing the ultimate victim. You were incredibly curious about one thing, though. Now, when these two were faced with conflicting personal interests, would they still act this disgustingly in love? Quickly, a bold, ruthless plan formulated in your mind. You followed Serena straight to the company. As soon as you walked into your office, Serena brought in a freshly brewed cup of coffee. You just frowned at her. I usually pass on coffee. Serena froze, looking painfully awkward. Oh, my bad. I'll just go dump it out then. Forget it, you sighed. Just leave it. You already made the damn thing. Pouring it down the drain is a waste. Serena set the mug down next to you, her eyes gleaming with way too much curiosity. Have you ever been married before? Instantly, your internal alarm bells started screaming. You shot her a look of pure, blatant suspicion. Why the hell are you asking me that? Serena just shrugged, playing innocent. Oh, no reason. I just figured a wildly successful guy like you would have a couple of wives or mistresses tucked away somewhere. It's totally normal, right? You shook your head in disbelief. Never been married. And where exactly would I even find these imaginary wives and mistresses? Hearing that, Serena's entire face lit up with a blinding smile. Wow, what a coincidence. You're single, and I'm single. Doesn't that make us a match made in heaven? You literally spat out the sip of coffee you had just taken, hacking and coughing. What kind of completely twisted logic was that? By her insane logic, literally any two single people on planet Earth were soulmates. Serena frantically grabbed a handful of tissues and rushed over, desperately trying to scrub the hot coffee off your clothes. But whether she was doing it on purpose or it was just a total accident, her body kept leaning dangerously close to yours. Let's just say you got a full, completely unobstructed view of the stunning scenery down her shirt. You finally understood the old saying, a tiny waist packing some seriously heavy artillery. Snapping out of it, you quickly grabbed Serena's wrists to stop her. All right, that's enough. I'll handle it myself. Go fetch me the company's financial reports right now. Serena let out a dramatic. She couldn't help but panic and try to wipe the coffee away. But wait, why did he have to spill it right there of all places? Was he actually doing it on purpose? Obviously, you were completely clueless that Serena was running a full-blown, Oscar-winning romantic drama inside her own head. After flipping through the company's financial reports, you suddenly looked up. Is there a real estate auction happening over on the east side of the city this afternoon? Serena nodded briskly. Yes, boss. The auction is going down right over in the East District. Get yourself ready then. You're coming with me this afternoon. Hearing this, Serena's jaw practically hit the floor. Boss, are you seriously planning to bid on that plot of land? You might be new to town, so you probably don't know the full story. The East District is basically a massive dead zone. There's zero value there, but a bunch of corporate vultures are eyeing it just to snatch it up for cheap. It's definitely not going to be easy to get your hands on it. You narrowed your eyes at her. Should I interpret that as you questioning my capabilities? Serena frantically waved her hands in the air. No, you misunderstand. I just think that wasteland isn't worth the headache. The market over there is completely dead in the water. Plus, this auction is an extremely exclusive invite-only event. You need top-tier qualifications and an official invite just to step foot inside the building. If we try to pull some strings for an invite right now, I'm afraid we're already out of time. You didn't waste another breath arguing. Instead, you whipped out your phone and dialed a number. A few minutes later, you hung up the call and locked eyes with Serena. It's handled. Go get ready. Serena stared at you, absolutely awestruck. Wait. That fast? You looked right back at her with deadpan, chilling seriousness. There are only two types of people in this unforgiving world, the rich and the poor. As long as you have cash, and you have enough of it, everyone will gladly pave the way for you. That is the absolute power of capital. Your so-called rules and procedures are nothing but a pathetic joke in the face of true, overwhelming wealth. At that exact moment, Serena felt a massive, genuine surge of admiration for you, swelling from the very bottom of her heart. She shot you a massive thumbs up. All right, boss, you win. I'll go get everything prepared right now. With that, she spun on her heels and strutted right out of the office. The actual second Serena left the room, your phone buzzed. It was a text message from Elara. Even though you had already blocked her number for calls, text messages could still somehow slip through on this damn carrier. Silas, I need to talk to you. I know you can see this. Anyway, let's meet up, if you're willing. Staring coldly at her message, you initially had absolutely zero intention of replying to her garbage. But then you figured you might as well cut this toxic cord completely and cleanly. So, you quickly typed back, telling her to send the address. When your screen lit up with a second text dropping the location, you stood up from your desk and walked straight out the door. Catching Serena at her desk, you said, I have a quick errand to run outside. Serena instantly jumped to her feet. Boss, do you need me to tag along? You waved your hand, sharply shutting down the offer. No need. Focus on your work. We have serious business to handle this afternoon. After dropping that line, you strode confidently out of the company lobby. Right at that exact same moment, Serena's phone buzzed with a text of her own. From Elara. Serena, did your boss Sterling just leave the office? Glaring at the message, Serena couldn't help but feel incredibly, wildly suspicious. Wait a minute, Did Elara just ask Silas out, and Sterling magically walked out the door at the exact same time? Could it be? Was Sterling actually Silas this whole time? With her mind racing a mile a minute, she frantically started typing a reply on her phone screen. But right before her thumb hit send, her heart gave a sudden jolt. Like she was possessed by a protective demon, she deleted every single word and hammered out a brand new message. Nope. Our boss Sterling is still right here in the office. Seeing Serena's reply, Elara couldn't help but feel a crushing wave of deep disappointment wash over her. Could it be that she really was just being completely paranoid? Sterling and Silas truly were two entirely different people. But regardless of that fact, Silas had finally agreed to meet up with her. That was definitely something worth celebrating today. At the very least, he wouldn't be actively dodging her like he used to. Not long after, the two of you arrived at the designated cafe. What do you want? You cut straight to the chase, not bothering with any kind of fake pleasantries. Hearing your freezing cold tone of voice, Elara felt a sharp pang of discomfort echo in her chest. Silas, I know I did you dirty in this whole situation, so I've always wanted to make it up to you somehow. You know me. I'm not someone who likes to owe emotional debts. You frowned at her. Don't flatter yourself. I actually didn't know that about you, but the past is the past, and absolutely none of it matters anymore. You don't need to make anything up to me at all. From now on, let's just stay completely out of each other's lives. That should be easy enough for you, right? Hearing this, Elara's face instantly frosted over. Silas, why are you lying to yourself? The truth is, you can't let me go at all, can you? You were literally laughing out loud at her absolute, unhinged delusion. Boss Elara, may I ask exactly where you buy your audacity from? On what basis would I not be able to let you go? Elara spoke with absolute, unshakable conviction. If you truly didn't care about me, why did you pack up every single one of your belongings when you left? Why did you orchestrate a collective amnesia scheme with all the maids? This just proves that deep down, you can't bear to let me go. You let out a helpless, deeply exhausted sigh. Maybe some of my actions caused you to have a massive misunderstanding. If so, I sincerely apologize for that. The only reason I came to see you today was to tell you to stop calling me and stop texting me from now on. Elara subconsciously clenched her fists. Silas, do you really hate me that much? You shook your head at her. I don't have a single ounce of love left for you. So where would the hate even come from? Hearing this, Elara violently shot up from her chair and screamed at you. Then, what were all those years of feelings between us? Silas, do you dare look me in the eye and say you have never liked me? You couldn't help but laugh again. Did we ever actually have a real relationship? I admit I did like you once, but that was strictly in the past. The current me just wants to stay as physically far away from you as humanly possible. But Elara's brain completely auto-filtered out the entire second half of your sentence. She simply nodded, looking thoroughly satisfied with herself. As long as you admit you liked me, that's enough. It was as if she was just desperately trying to scrape back a tiny shred of her fragile ego. You frowned at her absolute clown behavior. Stop throwing tantrums like a child. Please never contact me again. Let's just part ways peacefully. Having said your piece, you prepared to get up and leave the table. But suddenly, you remembered something and turned your head back. Oh, right. Where's your precious golden boy? Didn't he tag along with you today? For some inexplicable reason, a wave of intense irritation hit Elara's heart. She brushed you off quickly. He's busy. You nodded in mock understanding. You two should be tying the knot soon, right? Remember to send me a wedding invitation when the time comes. I'll make sure to write a massive wedding check for you guys. After all, I am the legendary ex-husband. With that final word, you turned on your heel and marched out of the cafe without even looking back once. Staring at your retreating back, she gathered her courage and shouted, Silas, does it really have to be like this? Actually, the real reason I asked you out today was to ask if we could still be friends. You let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. Friends? Let's skip the joke. I don't have the qualifications to be friends with a high and mighty princess like you. From now on, let's just stay out of each other's lanes entirely. Being total strangers sounds absolutely fantastic to me. Elara's expression morphed into pure victimhood. Even though we divorced, the foundation of our years together is still there. Even if we can't be husband and wife, is it so bad to just be friends? If you ever run into any trouble in the future, you can call me anytime. You were far too exhausted to keep playing this ridiculous game with her. You walked straight to the front counter, paid for your drink, and left. Elara closed her eyes in defeat. The man who used to hold her like she was the absolute center of the universe was truly gone. Right now, she actually felt a sharp pang of deep regret. Just at that exact moment, the waiter walked over. Excuse me, miss. The gentleman who just left only paid for his own cup of coffee. As for your cup, how would you like to settle the bill? Elara's eyes snapped open in sheer disbelief, staring dead at the waiter. Any nostalgic memories that had just started to bubble up instantly evaporated into hot rage. Good. Great. Amazing, Silas. You really have some nerve. I was truly blind back then. How could I have chosen such an unromantic, cheap bastard as a husband? Today, I have finally seen your true colors. Right now, she only felt immense, overwhelming relief. Relief that she had finally divorced Silas's broke ass. Later that afternoon, this was the grand venue for the high-stakes land auction. You never expected that the second you stepped into the grand lobby, you'd cross paths with the absolute last person you wanted to see. Tristan's face instantly scrunched up into a nasty scowl as he glared daggers at you. Silas, what the hell are you doing here? He barked. Your face was completely devoid of emotion as you shot back. If you can be here, why can't I? Tristan froze for a split second, then let out a harsh scoff, dripping with pure disdain. Are you seriously trying to compare yourself to me? Do you have any idea what my status is? And what exactly is yours? You feigned total ignorance, tilting your head. Oh? And what is my status? And what exactly is yours? Tristan's face twisted into a mask of ultimate arrogance. He absolutely lived for these pathetic little moments where he could flex his superiority. So, he started explaining with this exaggerated, mocking patience. You are nothing but a broke country bumpkin who only knows how to leech off a woman's money. While I run my own highly successful company overseas. Do you honestly think a loser like you is worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as me? You just looked at him with mock curiosity. So, running a company overseas makes you a god or something? You asked. Obviously, Tristan gloated, his ego inflating. At the very least, a bottom feeder like you will never reach my level in your entire lifetime. Hell, not just this lifetime. Even in your next life, and the life after that, you'll never be on my level. Hearing his ridiculous rant, you let out a massive, dramatic sigh of relief. Thank God. Thank God for that. I really appreciate the blessing, because I would absolutely hate to ever end up like you. Right at that exact moment, Ara walked over to join the circus. She looked at you with deep, genuine confusion. Silas, why on earth are you here? You frowned and stated flatly, someone invited me. Obviously, before Ara could even open her mouth to reply, Tristan couldn't resist jumping right back in to mock you. Are you completely delusional? Do you even know what kind of exclusive place this is? Who would ever invite a nobody like you? You're just a worthless country bumpkin. If you ask me, you definitely snuck in here like a filthy rat. Hearing Tristan's harsh words, Ara's eyebrows locked together in concern. Silas, if you really did sneak in here, I highly suggest you turn around and leave immediately. This isn't a place someone like you can just waltz into. You replied, thoroughly annoyed now. I already told you, I was invited. I really don't need either of you worrying about me, but thanks. Ara looked visibly offended by your cold brush-off. Silas, I am only saying this for your own good. Why are you being so boss Sterling? Ara, what are you guys chatting about? Serena strutted over with absolute confidence, cleanly cutting off Ara's nagging sentence. Hearing Serena drop that name, Ara completely froze. Then, reality violently crashed right back into her brain. Right, he's Boss Sterling. Oh. Sorry, we just mistook you for someone else. Saying that, she frantically grabbed a highly confused Tristan by the arm and dragged him away from you. After walking just a few steps, Tristan aggressively yanked his hand out of Ara's tight grip. Ara, why the hell are you pulling me away? Ara explained patiently. We got the wrong guy. That person is named Sterling, not Silas. Impossible, Tristan stated with absolute, dead-set certainty. That is Silas. How could I possibly misrecognize that loser's face? Ara sighed in pure, heavy exhaustion. Look, I can't explain it all to you in just a few sentences. Just remember this one thing. He is not Silas. He is the CEO of Blossom Corporation, Boss Sterling. Hearing this bombshell, Tristan's eyes nearly popped right out of his skull. Wait a minute. Isn't the CEO of Blossom surnamed Goo? When did it suddenly change to Sterling? Ara had absolutely no choice but to relay everything Serena had previously told her to Tristan. So, you see, it is absolutely impossible for that man to be Silas. But even after hearing all that undeniable logic, Tristan completely refused to believe it. So, like an idiot, he stubbornly marched right back over to you. Mr. Sterling, I sincerely apologize for my behavior earlier. I completely mistook you for someone else. You couldn't be bothered to give him even a single glance, turning around to walk straight toward the grand doors of the auction hall. Seeing you ignore him, Tristan cursed viciously in his own head. Who the hell do you think you're fooling, you broke loser? I am going to expose your fake act right here, right now. Thinking this, he plastered on a sickeningly fake smile and glued himself right back to your side. Mr. Sterling, as a formal apology for my mistake, I would love to treat you to dinner after the auction. Would you do me the honor? You continued to treat the guy like he was invisible air, turning your attention to Serena instead. Let's head inside. But just as you confidently stepped up to the main entrance, a massive security guard blocked your path. I am sorry, sir. Please present your invitation. You simply shook your head and casually replied, I don't have an invitation. Hearing this confession, the security guard's face instantly hardened into a deep scowl. He spoke with stern, unyielding authority. Sir, I am sorry. If you cannot produce a valid invitation, I will have to ask you to leave the premises immediately. Seeing you get blocked by security, Tristan, who was lurking right behind you, was instantly thrilled. I freaking knew it. My instincts were spot on. He really is Silas, that broke little rat. Acting all high and mighty for what? Seeing Tristan gloating like a cheesy comic book villain, Ara's eyebrows furrowed deeply in worry. She was just about to step in and say something to save face when she heard your calm voice cut through the tension. My surname is Sterling. I already informed your boss I was coming. If you don't believe me, you can call him and ask yourself. Upon hearing those heavy words, the security guard's face completely drained of all color. You are Mr. Sterling. You replied with a flat, icy, and totally emotionless tone. That is correct. I am. Now, may I go inside? The terrified security guard nodded so fast his neck almost snapped in half. Yes, of course you can, sir. The doors of our Han Palace Hotel are always wide open for you, Mr. Sterling. Saying that, the guard immediately stepped back, bowing with a grand, sweeping gesture to welcome him inside. He bowed with deep respect, taking 2 full steps back. Honestly, you couldn't even blame the guy for this massive, dramatic shift in his attitude. The big boss had literally just called him personally a few seconds ago, and those instructions were absolutely crystal clear. The moment Mr. Sterling steps foot at the hotel, absolutely no one is allowed to stand in his way. He was to be treated with the same reverence as the boss's own father. If anyone dared to show even a hint of disrespect to Mr. Sterling, they could pack their trash and get out immediately. As a simple, lowly security guard, how could he ever dare to block a VIP like that? Seeing Silas stroll so effortlessly through those doors, Tristan stood frozen behind him, looking like his brain had completely short-circuited. He just walked right in. Didn't they just say an official invitation was completely mandatory? Standing right there on the sidelines, Ara was just as shell-shocked as Tristan. Seriously, who exactly is this guy? She knew exactly how terrifyingly powerful the backers of the Han Palace Hotel were. To be able to freely stroll in and out with just a single word, that was insane. Could the wealth and power backing him truly be on par with the Han Palace itself? But while Ara was drowning in her own disbelief, Tristan puffed out his chest and swaggered right toward the entrance. Instantly, the security guard at the door threw out a strong arm and completely blocked his path. Sir, please present your invitation. Tristan, however, spoke up with a ridiculous amount of unearned, righteous confidence. I don't have an invitation. The security guard's face instantly turned to cold stone. I apologize, but if you do not have an invite, I must ask you to leave the premises immediately. Hearing this, Tristan instantly exploded in a fit of rage. On what grounds does that guy get to walk in without an invite? But I can't. The guard maintained a highly polite but freezing cold tone. Mr. Sterling is our esteemed VIP guest. Naturally, he is not bound by the same rules as ordinary people like you. He is free to go wherever he pleases. His presence here is our absolute honor. Seeing the security guard act like a total simp for Silas, Tristan completely lost his mind. He roared directly into the guard's face. What kind of VIP is he? Open your damn eyes and look closely at who is standing in front of you. My name is Tristan. I am the CEO of a massive overseas enterprise. How dare you treat me like this? Believe it or not, I can have your boss fire your sorry self in a heartbeat. But the security guard wasn't intimidated in the slightest. You are more than welcome to file a complaint against me, sir, but without an invitation, I must still ask you to leave this instant. Not only did Tristan completely ignore the guard's final warning, but he actually tried to aggressively shove his way past him. You bunch of snobbish guard dogs. I am not leaving. What the hell are you going to do about it? The security guard let out a chilling cold laugh. What am I going to do? Trash, like you actually dares to cause a scene here at the Han Palace Hotel? Before the sentence was even finished, a massive, echoing slap landed squarely on Tristan's face. Tristan's left cheek instantly puffed up, just like a red balloon. 5 bright red finger marks were clearly branded onto his skin. The totally bewildered Tristan finally registered the pain and dramatically collapsed onto the floor. You actually dared to hit me, Pay up. You have to pay for my medical bills right now. If you don't pay me, I am not moving a single inch. Saying that, the grown man actually started throwing a full-blown toddler tantrum right there on the floor. Judging by his incredibly practiced, fluid movements, this was clearly not his first rodeo acting like a cheap street scammer. Seeing this absolute clown behavior, Ara hastily rushed forward and practically shoved her invitation into the guard's hands. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. He's my friend. He came here with me. I deeply apologize for this ridiculous disturbance. At this exact moment, staring down at Tristan as he rolled around on the floor, crying like a spoiled toddler, a wave of intense nausea washed over her. She couldn't even fathom how a grown man could roll around on the ground, throwing a fit like a crazy street hustler. She severely regretted every single one of her life choices today. If she had known it was going to turn out like this, she never ever would have brought Tristan along in the first place. He was practically dragging her reputation right through the mud. Why hadn't she realized earlier that Tristan was this completely unhinged? This was the prestigious Han Palace Hotel, for crying out loud. Did this idiot think he was just chilling in his own living room? The security guard took the invitation and instantly switched back to his polite, professional face. Ah, welcome, boss. Please, head right on in. Ara forced an incredibly awkward, deeply pained smile. She immediately quickened her pace and practically sprinted inside the venue. But right at that very moment, Tristan's furious, unhinged roar echoed from behind her. Order them to get on their knees and apologize to me right now. I am an elite entrepreneur with an overseas company. They actually dared to strike me. I am going to absolutely ruin them. I want. An absolutely furious Era spun right around and violently slapped Tristan across the face with everything she had. She hissed through completely gritted teeth. Shut your damn mouth. Haven't you completely humiliated me enough already? Tristan grabbed his stinging face. A flash of toxic venom gleamed in his eyes, but he finally shut his trap. After rushing into the hall, Ara just randomly picked a seat and sat down. There wasn't any assigned seating here anyway, so she just desperately grabbed whatever was open to hide her face. Not long after, the auctioneer strutted onto the stage. After a brief round of generic pleasantries, he cut straight to the chase. I believe everyone sitting here today is eyeing this specific plot of land. I won't waste any more of your time. I officially declare the auction started. Starting bid, 50 million. Instantly, a rainbow of bidding paddles shot up into the air. The price began skyrocketing. 60 million, 70 million, 80 million. Elara also raised her paddle high. 100 million. She had come here with a mission. She was absolutely determined to win this land, because it represented the Liu family's entire development trajectory for the next several years. But very quickly, her bid was completely buried by the others. It couldn't be helped. The development potential for this plot of land was simply too massive. As Elara kept frantically raising her paddle, Tristan, who was sitting right next to her, started to panic. He quickly leaned in and tried to talk her out of it. Elara, maybe we should just let it go. That land isn't worth this insane price. Plus, once you factor in development costs, you'll practically be bleeding money. Tristan was genuinely panicking, but it wasn't because he actually cared about her business. He was absolutely terrified she would dump all of her liquid cash into this single piece of land. If she did that, who was going to fund his failing overseas company? He was still banking on begging her for a massive bailout. Shut up. Elara shot him a lethal glare. Winning this land was a major strategic decision, one made by the entire Liu family board. How could she possibly abandon it, just because Tristan was whining? Being completely shut down by Elara, Tristan naturally felt extremely salty. But he couldn't exactly throw another tantrum right here in public. However, the moment he thought about his dying company abroad, he couldn't help but open his mouth again. I'm just saying this for your own good. Winning this land won't actually help your family that much. Instead, it's going to drag you into a massive black hole of investment. You won't even break even for 3 to 5 years, and there's a huge chance you'll lose everything. Elara's voice was freezing cold. I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm glad you're thinking of me, but there is no such thing as a risk-free business. Furthermore, this was a corporate strategy finalized a long time ago. I have absolutely no authority to change it on a whim. In just this short span of time, the price had already surged to 300 million. Elara gritted her teeth and yelled out, 350 million. What bold courage, boss. At that moment, a lazy voice drawled from the side. When she turned to see who was speaking, her heart dropped straight into her stomach. Why was Gideon here? Looking across the entire South River province, there were very few people who actually had the muscle to wrestle with the Shen family. If Gideon was making a move, nobody else was walking away with this land. Gideon shot Elara a deeply meaningful, slimy look. Then, he laughed and casually tossed out his bid. 500 million. Hearing Gideon's bid, Elara's face instantly turned to ice. 500 million was way too steep. Even if she successfully bought the land for 500 million, she would still have to hemorrhage cash for development. It was a total bottomless pit. With the Liu family's current financial situation, they simply couldn't scrounge up that much liquid capital. Thinking of this, Elara let out a heavy, defeated sigh. It looked like she had no choice but to surrender. Gideon turned to Elara, his face plastered with a mocking smirk. "Why did you stop bidding, boss?" "It's so lonely bidding all by myself. Come on, play with me a little longer." "Ha ha." Right at that moment, a sharp, fierce, female voice echoed through the hall. 550 million. Gideon snapped around, his eyes narrowing as he sneered. "Are you trying to steal my toy? I won't go easy on you, you know." Valeria scoffed with pure disdain. "I don't need your charity. We'll rely on our own bank accounts." Gideon shrugged, completely unfazed. "It's nice having you play along. At least I won't be bored." Then, he lazily shouted his next bid. 600 million! Hearing this, Valeria's eyebrows knitted tightly together. After a moment of tense silence, she turned to look at Elara. "How much liquid capital do you still have on hand?" A spark of realization flashed in Elara's eyes. "You want to form a joint venture to buy this land?" Valeria nodded sharply. "Exactly. With our individual cash flows, neither of us can take down the Shen family solo. Might as well team up for this one." Elara pondered for a few seconds, then nodded firmly. "A joint venture works, but we share the risks equally." "No problem." Valeria agreed without a second's hesitation. She had been planning exactly this. Even if Elara hadn't agreed, she would have proposed it herself shortly. Sitting next to them, Tristan had just been internally celebrating that she was finally giving up on the land. Who knew this Valeria chick would pop out of nowhere to completely ruin his day? He had no choice but to open his mouth and start nagging again. "Maybe you really should just let it go. A joint venture is incredibly risky. It's not like you absolutely have to buy this specific piece of land." Valeria shot him a look of pure bewilderment. And who might this be? Hearing her tone, Tristan was so furious, he almost swore out loud. Valeria honestly had no clue who this guy was. Sure, he was some hotshot entrepreneur running an overseas company. And yeah, even before he skipped town, he was treated like a minor celebrity in their elite little circles. So how could a drop-dead gorgeous woman like her not recognize him? Elara forced an agonizingly awkward introduction. "His name is Tristan. He's my friend." "Oh, so he's that absolute piece of garbage who totally abandoned you back in the day. How does he even have the nerve to show his face around here? I heard you even divorced your own husband for this piece of trash." Hearing that, Tristan's face instantly turned a sickly shade of green. He just couldn't hold it back anymore. "Valeria, what the hell is that supposed to mean?" But Valeria just looked at Tristan like she was staring at a pathetic, squashed bug. "I mean exactly what I said. The type of person I despise the most in this entire world is useless trash like you. Back when Ara was sick and literally dying, you ran away as fast as your cowardly legs could carry you. And now that she's completely cured, you come scurrying back like a desperate little puppy, and you even manipulated her into getting a divorce. Did I get that right?" Tristan was absolutely terrified that Ara would start dwelling on his pathetic, cowardly past. He frantically scrambled to defend himself. I had my own untold hardships." Valeria let out a cold, mocking snort. She was just about to verbally execute him again when Ara abruptly cut her off. "Valeria, that is enough. This is my private matter, and I really don't need you trying to micromanage my life." Valeria chuckled dryly. "Fair enough. I guess I am being a bit of a busybody here. Let's just get back to the bidding. 800 million. Gideon's face twisted into an incredibly ugly scowl. He gritted his teeth and roared out, 1 billion. After all, nobody's money just grew on trees. With the Yan and Liu families teaming up against him, they had maliciously forced him to bleed hundreds of millions extra for absolutely no good reason. Valeria and Elara exchanged a defeated, helpless look, and simultaneously let out a heavy sigh. That price tag was just way too astronomical. In the end, they had no choice but to throw in the towel and abandon the auction. And honestly, no one else in that room dared to keep raising the price either. The auctioneer gleefully picked up his gavel. 1 billion, going once. "Do we have any higher bids on the floor?" Gideon stood up, flashing a triumphant, incredibly arrogant smirk. Even though he had burned through a few hundred million more than he originally planned, he was already mentally picking out the venue for his epic victory party. Several people in the hall who were closely allied with the Shen family were already rushing over, practically falling over themselves to kiss up to him. "A massive congratulations to you, young Master Shen." The Shen family truly lives up to its legendary reputation as the absolute apex predator of South River Province. Dropping 1 billion without even batting an eye and basking in all the shameless flattery from the crowd, Gideon felt like he was soaring on cloud 9. Thank you all so much for your continuous support of the Shen family. I've actually already booked a venue. Let's all go grab some drinks later to properly celebrate. Riding the momentum, the auctioneer shouted out the final calls. 1 billion. Going thrice. And S. Wait. Hold on. Right at that exact moment, a lazy, incredibly bored voice cut effortlessly through the tense air. 1.5 billion. The second that jaw-dropping price of 1.5 billion was casually dropped, the entire crowd whipped their heads around in pure, unadulterated terror. They stared wide-eyed at the front row, looking right at where Sterling was casually sitting. Everyone there genuinely thought Gideon dropping 1 billion was already bordering on absolutely psychotic. No one in their wildest dreams ever imagined some random wildcard would casually toss out a bid 500 million higher than Gideon's. That was 1.5 billion. You could literally buy several towering skyscrapers right in the city center with that kind of insane cash. The crazy world of the ultra-rich. It was truly light years beyond their peasant-like comprehension. And mind you, anyone sitting in this auction house was an elite in their own right. But staring at Sterling, everyone just drew a massive, collective blank. How strange. Which corporate titan is this? Why have I literally never seen this guy's face before? He actually does look kind of familiar, but I just can't put my finger on who he is. Wait, I remember now. Isn't he Era's live-in husband? I heard he just got divorced from Era a few days ago. Finally, someone in the crowd had actually managed to recognize Sterling's face. Gideon's fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned completely white. Someone actually dared to steal his thunder right at the finish line. He was just mere inches away from finally securing the bag. Who on earth could have predicted this Sterling guy would crash the party like a devastating rogue meteor? I do not care who the hell you are. If you dare to cross me, you are just digging your own early grave. Gideon was absolutely seething with blistering rage, but at the same time, he was completely and utterly helpless. 1.5 billion was a truly astronomical figure. It had completely and utterly shattered his absolute maximum budget. He had no other choice but to painfully bite his tongue and just give up. A massive congratulations to this gentleman for successfully winning this prime piece of land with a staggering bid of 1.5 billion. The auctioneer's gavel violently smashed down to seal the deal. Immediately following that, a thunderous, absolutely deafening round of applause erupted throughout the grand hall. He is your ex-husband? Valeria subconsciously gulped hard, struggling to process it. Sterling was casually dropping 1.5 billion without even blinking an eye. Ara's brain must have been totally crushed by a hydraulic press for her to willingly divorce a powerful man like that. The old saying really was true. Comparing yourself to others would only make you want to curl up and die. If she had a filthy rich husband like that, she would be super glued to his thigh 24/7. No wonder she felt he looked somewhat familiar when she first laid her eyes on him. So, this absolute powerhouse was actually Era's supposedly worthless ex-husband. You've got the wrong guy. There is absolutely no way he's my ex-husband, she stammered, shaking her head in complete, desperate denial. Under the blinding glare of the spotlight and a sea of stunned stares, Sterling stepped confidently onto the stage. Grabbing the mic from the dumbfounded auctioneer, he smirked. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're all dying to know who I really am. Allow me to formally introduce myself. My name is Sterling, and I hail from the capital. It is a genuine pleasure to meet you all. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A guy named Sterling? From the capital? Could it really be? The legendary Sterling family. Why on earth would a Sterling be slumming it in a tiny pond like Shanghai City? Someone whispered. My God, it's actually them. Capital royalty. No wonder he's tossing around cash like it's monopoly money. He's a mega heir from the big leagues. A good chunk of the room had already pieced together his terrifying true background. Sterling smiled. Yes, exactly as many of you have already guessed. I am a direct member of the capital's Sterling family. I came to Shanghai City for one singular purpose, and I'll lay it out for everyone right now. My family is preparing to drop a massive 30 billion investment right here in this city. If any of you have promising projects or wish to collaborate with the Sterling Empire, my door is always open. Clap, clap, clap. The entire hall erupted into a second, deafening wave of applause. That was 30 solid billion on the line. Even if they couldn't swallow the whole pie, just licking the crumbs off the plate would make any of them filthy, disgustingly rich. No matter what it takes, I have to get my hands on a piece of that pie. It's the only thing that can save my failing overseas company. Tristan swore a desperate blood oath in his heart. He couldn't believe this guy was actually a capital Sterling. Meanwhile, Elara felt like she was trapped in a bizarre fever dream. If only he was really Silas. God, how amazing would that be, she thought. She didn't know why, but right then and there, she desperately, wildly hoped that Sterling actually was her ex-husband, because if he was, he would absolutely put her at the front of the line for a slice of that massive investment. With the Sterling Empire secretly backing them, her Liu family blasting into the Fortune 500 would be an absolute walk in the park. The capital Sterling family. Gideon instantly deflated like a popped balloon, all his arrogant swagger vanishing into thin air. He didn't have a single, lingering thought about going to war with the man anymore. If Sterling had just been some random rich guy, Gideon might have had a microscopic sliver of hope. But against the real deal, he didn't even have a snowball's chance in hell. Sure, his Shen family was the apex predator of South River Province. But compared to a monstrous leviathan like the Sterlings, they weren't even a newborn infant. Someone from the capital, huh? Valeria's mind raced with greedy schemes. If I can just cozy up to him, the Yan family will be set for generations. Under the ravenous, bloodthirsty gazes of the crowd, Sterling calmly stepped down from the stage. He wasn't just talking big to flex. His family was legitimately preparing to inject 30 billion into Zhanghai City. But as for how that cash would be spent, and who would get it, Sterling held 100% absolute authority over every single penny. Of course, he wasn't about to just toss his family's fortune into a bonfire for these vultures. At the end of the day, whose pockets got lined would depend entirely on their own competence. Young Master Sterling. Hello, I'm the CEO of Wan Corp, Wang Deli. It is an absolute honor to meet you. Another voice chimed in. Young Master Sterling, hi, I am the boss of Rooting Tech. Please, take my business card. If you ever need absolutely anything, you just say the word and I'm there. Young Master Sterling, I'm Lita Hang from Jink Wealth Management. We specialize in high-end financial investing. I'd love to treat you to dinner sometime. In the blink of an eye, Sterling had become the absolute, gravitational center of their universe. Even his friend Fiona was staring at him in pure, unadulterated shock. She knew the guy was loaded, and she knew he was from the capital, but she never in her wildest dreams imagined he was the Sterling from the legendary billionaire family. No wonder he could just toss around 30 billion like it was loose pocket change. 30 billion. Even if she worked herself to the bone for 10,000 years, she couldn't earn a fraction of that. Suddenly, a sultry voice cut through the noise. Young Master Sterling. Hello. I am Valeria, from the Yan family. Flawless beauty is our family enterprise. If you ever have some free time, I would absolutely love to give you a very in-depth presentation. Valeria strutted forward with supreme confidence, purposefully flipping her glossy hair to draw his eyes. Her gaze was dangerously seductive, shooting him these intense, flirty little winks as she approached. As one of the top 3 most gorgeous women in Zhanghai City, Valeria knew exactly how to weaponize her assets. No matter where she went, beautiful women always held the winning hand. After all, even the greatest heroes fall for a sweet honey trap. Even if Sterling didn't immediately fall madly in love on the spot, he would definitely feel a spark of raw attraction. And honestly, a tiny spark was all she needed, especially since she was the one aggressively taking the initiative. Pulling a honey trap right in broad daylight, this Valeria chick has absolutely zero shame. But honestly, if you had a face like hers, you would be working that honey trap too. I would love to, but I am a dude, man. Honestly, I wish I was a girl right now. Quite a few people in the crowd were sweating buckets in pure suspense. Even though Sterling had some terrifyingly powerful backing, he was still incredibly young. And as the saying goes, 9 out of 10 young rich men are total playboys. Sterling might not actually be able to resist the seductive allure of a good honey trap. However, to the absolute shock of everyone in that room, Sterling did not even seem to register her existence. That doesn't make any sense. My face is easily top tier in Zhanghai City. Even if he doesn't want to sleep with me, he shouldn't be giving me the cold shoulder like this. Valeria was internally screaming in pure shock. She even started genuinely questioning if she had a booger hanging out of her nose. Sterling did not even spare her a single second glance. Did this guy join a monastery or something? She had seen plenty of rich men in her life, but a man like Sterling? Filthy rich, yet completely immune to lust? This was her very first time encountering a unicorn like him. And naturally, this cold rejection only ignited her interest in him even more. Should we go over and say hi? Tristan whispered eagerly. Sterling was about to dump 30 billion into the market. If he could just secure a tiny, microscopic fraction of that investment, it would easily bring his dead overseas company right back to life. Even Gideon was currently wearing a sickeningly sweet smile, desperately trying to squeeze his way through the crowd just to greet Sterling. If they did not seize this golden opportunity immediately, It would slip right through their fingers. Ara hesitated for a brief moment, but finally bit the bullet and decided to walk over to greet Sterling. Honestly, she was not super thrilled about having too much contact with this guy. He looked way too much like Silas. Plus, she had already had some seriously unpleasant friction with him earlier, but she had absolutely no choice but to suck it up and take the initiative right now. Sometimes, for the sake of money, a person really just has to learn how to swallow their pride and bow their head. Young Master Sterling, my name is Tristan. I am so incredibly sorry that I offended you earlier over such a trivial misunderstanding. It is just that. You look so identical to a friend I used to know. Tristan wore a face full of utter, pathetic contrition. Earlier, he was 100% convinced that Sterling was Silas. But now, he actually believed the exact opposite. If Sterling really was Silas, Silas never would have chosen to marry into the Liu family as a pathetic, live-in husband. And the mighty Sterling family would never have allowed him to do such a humiliating thing. Tristan only cared about the money. He did not care whose hands that money came from. As long as it was green, it was good. Whether it was Sterling's money or Silas's money, as long as it ended up in his own pockets, he was a happy camper. Young Master Sterling, hello. I am from the Liu Corporation. I am so deeply sorry for the unpleasant experience I caused you earlier. If it is convenient for you, I would love to treat you to a meal. Would that be all right? Ara spoke with her head lowered in complete submission. No, it is not convenient at all, Sterling replied, his voice like shattering ice. Ara stared at Sterling in pure shock. He literally rejected her flat out, and he did it right in front of everyone. Sterling was clearly trying to publicly humiliate her. Did I ever do anything to offend him before today? I don't think so. At the airport, we had a misunderstanding. Sure, but I already explained it to him clearly. Someone from the elite Sterling family shouldn't be this incredibly petty, right? The crowd around them all shot Ara looks of deep, stinging pity. They had all extended invitations to Sterling as well, but Sterling had mostly just brushed them off with polite, non-committal replies. Only Ara got the brutal, flat-out rejection, and it was right in front of the entire audience. Ara felt an embarrassment so intense, she wanted to die. She wished she could just carve a hole in the floor and bury herself alive. Sorry to bother you then. Ara also realized that pestering him any further would only make Sterling hate her even more. Ring, ring, ring. Right at that moment, her phone suddenly started ringing. It was her father, Winston, calling. Dad, what is it? Ara had no choice but to answer the call. Come home tonight. Your mother and I have something to ask you. Winston spoke in a harsh, commanding tone. Dad, I have been incredibly busy these past few days. Can I come back in a few days instead? Ara asked softly. No, you must come back tonight. If you do not come back tonight, do not bother ever coming back at all. Winston hung up the phone violently. He did not give her a single chance to refuse. Seeing Ara's complexion turn pale, Tristan immediately played the caring boyfriend. Is everything okay? It's nothing. My dad is looking for me. I have to go back home tonight. I won't be able to have dinner with you. Ara looked incredibly apologetic. It is totally fine. You go deal with your family first. We have plenty of chances in the future. Tristan acted exceedingly generous and understanding. Ring, ring, ring. At that exact moment, Sterling's phone also started ringing. Ara's face went completely pale. Her dad, Winston, had just hung up the phone with her. So why in the world was Sterling's phone ringing right at that exact second? Could Sterling actually be Silas? Did her dad dial Silas the absolute second they got off the line? The timing was way too perfect. As Sterling's ringtone echoed through the room, a massive wave of pure, unfiltered panic crashed over Ara. He wanted to lunge across the room, snatch the phone right out of his hands, and check that caller ID. But logic barely managed to choke out her impulsive urge. Excuse me, everyone. I need to take this call outside, Sterling muttered, quickly making his way over to a quiet, empty corner away from prying eyes. And just as he suspected, the name flashing on the screen was Winston. Sterling hesitated for a split second, taking a deep breath, before finally swiping to answer. Silas, my boy, what have you been so busy with lately? Winston's booming voice crackled through the speaker. Nothing much, honestly, Sterling replied in a soft, steady tone. Over his 3 agonizing years of marriage to Ara, his father-in-law was actually the one person who had been genuinely good to him. Sure, in the very beginning, Winston looked down on him like he was dirt, but as the years rolled by, the older man had completely warmed up, fully accepting him as his true son-in-law. You haven't come by to visit your mom and me in way too long, kid. Come over tonight. Just us 2 guys. We'll knock back a few drinks. Winston chuckled, his voice radiating warmth. Dad, I probably won't be able to make it. It's just, Not a great time right now, Sterling admitted, his tone heavy with regret. What do you mean it's not a great time? Winston demanded, his brow instantly furrowing in confusion. Dad. The truth is, Ara and I are already divorced. Sterling sighed, left with absolutely no choice but to rip the band-aid off. I know. So what if you're divorced? Big deal. Your marriage is your own business. As long as you still call me Dad, you're still my son-in-law. Winston literally couldn't have cared less about the paperwork. Honestly, he'd known about their messy split for a while now. The entire reason he had summoned both Sterling and Elara back home today was specifically to nip this disaster in the bud. As a father-in-law, he was 100% satisfied with Sterling. Divorce or no divorce, he was claiming this kid as his own. In the absolute worst-case scenario, he had a backup plan. He had another daughter. If push came to shove, he'd just marry his other daughter off to Sterling instead. Because let's be real, finding a guy as solid as Sterling was like finding a needle in a massive haystack. Ara was totally clueless on how to appreciate a good man, but Winston sure as hell wasn't going to just let Sterling slip through his fingers. Dad, please don't say that. In my heart, you will always be my dad. Sterling choked out, a massive wave of genuine emotion hitting him. A human heart can't stay frozen in ice forever, after all. He had been married to Ara for 3 long years, and in that time, he had completely melted the hearts of the Liu family. Well, Ara was the one glaring, stubborn exception. The rest of the Liu family treated him amazingly, especially her parents. They truly loved him like he was their own flesh and blood. He could genuinely feel their love. Now, pouring your heart out doesn't always guarantee you'll get that same love in return. But when true feelings actually are reciprocated, you have to cherish them. Then it's settled. I'll have your mom whip up a few extra dishes for us tonight, Winston declared, immediately hanging up before Sterling could even argue. Time flew by in a blur, and evening quickly rolled around. Keeping his promise, Sterling pulled up to Winston's house. Back when he and Elara first got married, they had quickly moved out into their own place. So, Sterling usually only swung by the family estate when he had a little free time, sitting around and chatting with the older couple just to keep them company. Dad, Mom? Sterling called out as he knocked on the front door, politely pretending he didn't already know the digital passcode by heart. Silas is here. Hurry up, get in here, boy. The heavy door swung open in a flash, and Winston enthusiastically grabbed Sterling, ushering him inside. Sterling had no choice but to laugh and step inside. Hey, just bringing yourself is more than enough. Why did you drag all these gifts over? Seeing Sterling hauling bags and fancy boxes, Winston actually looked a little annoyed by the formality. Oh, you made it. Ara's younger sister, Chloe, strolled over into the hallway. Sterling simply gave her a polite nod. Chloe was still a college student, happily living at home and only ever leaving to commute to her campus classes. Dad, Mom, why did you really call me over here tonight? Sterling finally dropped the million-dollar question. Silas, son, we already heard the news about you and Elara getting a divorce. And honestly, it's our Liu family that has completely failed you. Winston's voice cracked, his face heavy with deep, genuine shame. Dad, please, you can't say that. Matters of the heart are a two-way street. Plus, this whole messy situation has absolutely nothing to do with you guys. Sterling shook his head, though deep down, he was incredibly touched by their loyalty. He had totally assumed that the second the ink dried on the divorce papers, the wealthy Liu family would just cut all ties and kick him to the curb. How on earth could it have nothing to do with us? We completely failed to raise our daughter right, and we let you suffer a massive injustice. Ara's mother, Beatrice, walked into the room right at that moment, wiping her eyes. Dad, Mom, come on, you're making this sound way too tragic. I did everything in that marriage completely willingly. You have absolutely no reason to feel sorry for me. Sterling flashed them a warm, reassuring smile. He had completely let go of his pathetic Silas underdog persona a long time ago. Look, to tell you the honest truth, the main reason we dragged you here tonight is to ask if there's any chance of you and Elara getting back together. Winston looked him dead in the eye, absolutely refusing to give up his last shred of hope. Dad, Mom, honestly, I think things are perfectly fine exactly the way they are now. Sterling's calm answer drew a harsh line in the sand, making his stance crystal clear. Winston sighed deeply. Well, since you're already divorced, I guess we let it be. It's her loss anyway, she doesn't deserve you. As long as you're still willing to call us family, kid. That's enough for us. Winston seemed to have finally let the grudge go. Dad, what kind of talk is that? You treat me so incredibly well, he replied. How could I ever stop acknowledging you? Sterling kept a warm, gentle smile plastered on his face. Not long after, his ex-wife finally arrived home. Dad, Mom, I'm back. But the moment she saw Sterling casually sitting right there in the living room, her face instantly dropped in absolute shock. Sterling, What the hell are you doing here? She snapped. Why can't he be here? We invited him, Winston roared, absolutely furious with his daughter's attitude. Lara had an amazing, devoted husband like Sterling, but she threw him away for her long-lost first love who had vanished for years. To her parents, it was the definition of absolute clown behavior. In their eyes, Sterling was millions of times better than that Tristan guy could ever hope to be. Her brain must have been crushed by a door to divorce a guy like him for Tristan. Dad, Mom, if you invited him over, why didn't you give me a heads up? She demanded, visibly shaking with anger. If she had known her ex-husband was going to be here, she never would have shown up in the first place. It just made everything unbearably awkward for everyone involved. Why on earth should we give you a heads up? This is our house, not yours. Winston roared in righteous fury. Feeling the tension, Sterling interjected, Dad, Mom, you guys catch up. I'll go check on Chloe in her room. Seeing the incoming war about to explode, Sterling quickly found an excuse to escape the battlefield. He walked straight into Chloe's room, where she was currently intensely gaming with her headphones on. Brother-in-law, do you need something? Seeing Sterling walk in, Chloe quickly pulled off her headset. Chloe, actually, you don't need to call me brother-in-law anymore. Your sister and I are officially divorced, Sterling said, feeling incredibly awkward about breaking the news. So what? Chloe shrugged, looking completely unbothered by the bombshell. Oh, right, Chloe. I got you a gift. Sterling reached into his pocket and pulled out the beautiful necklace he had prepared beforehand. Brother-in-law, isn't this the exact necklace I've been obsessing over? How on earth did you know to buy it for me? I begged my sister for ages last time, and she flat out refused to buy it. Chloe was practically vibrating with pure excitement. Do you like it? Sterling asked with a gentle smile. I absolutely love it, brother-in-law. Put it on me, hurry. Chloe couldn't wait to see how it looked in the mirror. Seeing her overflowing enthusiasm, Sterling chuckled and had no choice but to step forward and gently help her clasp the necklace. Chloe immediately sprinted to her vanity mirror to admire her new jewelry. Brother-in-law, thank you so much. I absolutely love it. Chloe practically tackled Sterling in a massive bone-crushing hug. She had been lusting over this exact designer necklace for an absolute eternity. Sadly, on her current budget, she couldn't afford a single link of it. She was just a broke college student, totally unlike her sister, who pulled in a massive corporate income. As long as you like it. Seeing Chloe so genuinely happy with the gift he had specifically picked out for her, Sterling felt a wave of relief. Anyway, he didn't feel bad about the price tag. He had bought it using Lara's divorce settlement money. Wait, if I remember correctly, this necklace is insanely expensive, isn't it? Where did you get that kind of cash? Chloe couldn't help but ask. Her curiosity was completely piqued. After all, Sterling was just their family's live-in husband. Even though her sister gave him an allowance, it was definitely not a fortune. Oh, it's just from the divorce settlement your sister gave me. Sterling explained honestly. My sister actually gave you a divorce settlement? How much did she give you? Chloe's eyes widened in shock. Quite a lot, actually. 3 million. Sterling smiled casually. 3 million was essentially pocket lint to someone like Sterling. But to a normal person, it was definitely an astronomical sum. She only gave you 3 million? My sister is such a cheapskate. Chloe actually looked incredibly dissatisfied and offended on his behalf. Man, if I were you, I would have dragged her straight to court. I would have taken half of her entire net worth without blinking. Sterling had been married to Lara for years, and Chloe had witnessed every single backbreaking sacrifice Sterling made with her own 2 eyes. Since Lara was the one who wanted a divorce, Sterling completely deserved half of all her assets. By just tossing him 3 million, she was basically treating him like a beggar on the street. Hey, she's your biological sister, Sterling noted, somewhat surprised by her fierce reaction. So what? You're my brother-in-law, Chloe declared with icy loyalty. Seriously, brother-in-law, you are just way too nice for your own good. If it were me, I would never let her off that easy. Sterling had given up years of his youth for that woman. Why the hell should he just step aside the moment her precious first love crawled back into the country? Let's not talk about that anymore, Sterling said, shaking his head gently. He had completely untied that emotional knot in his heart and moved on. Well, since you gave me such an incredibly expensive gift, as a reward, I'll give you a gift too, Chloe giggled mischievously. What gift? Sterling asked, genuinely curious. Before he could even process what was happening, Chloe lunged right at him and planted a massive, wet kiss directly on his cheek. Are you crazy? I am your brother-in-law. Sterling was visibly panicking, looking completely flustered by the sudden attack. So what? You and my sister are already officially divorced anyway. Giving you a little kiss isn't a crime, is it? Chloe totally dismissed his panic with a wave of her hand. Chloe, You have to stop acting so recklessly. You're still young. You have to find a boyfriend in the future. If people find out about this kind of stuff, how are you ever going to find a decent guy? Sterling was caught somewhere between laughing and crying. I am not young anymore. I'm 18. I'm a legal adult. Look, in just a few years, I'll hit the legal marriage age anyway, Chloe declared, completely unapologetic. Besides, if I can't find the right guy, then I just won't bother. Worst case scenario? I'll just marry you. Sterling groaned. You're talking absolute nonsense again. I already told you, I'm your brother-in-law. Sterling felt a bone-deep sense of exhaustion washing over him. Can you please stop bringing up the brother-in-law thing every 5 seconds? You said it yourself. Chloe shot back. You and my sister are already divorced, so you are technically no longer my brother-in-law. Even if we really did get married in the future, nobody could say a damn thing about it. Chloe pouted aggressively, crossing her arms. My sister didn't know how to appreciate a good thing. From now on, I will be the one who cherishes you, Chloe insisted. Sterling was genuinely getting a little irritated now. He only ever viewed Chloe as his own little sister. He never in a million years imagined she harbored these kinds of wild romantic fantasies about him. Fine, I'll shut up, she muttered. But I am never giving up on us. You will be mine, sooner or later. Seeing that Sterling was actually getting mad, Chloe had no choice but to make a tactical retreat. You can say that kind of crazy stuff at home as a joke, Sterling warned, but when you go outside, you absolutely cannot spout this kind of nonsense. Sterling sighed, looking completely defeated. You can't boss me around, Chloe huffed, her eyes flashing with rebellion. I am your brother-in-law. Of course, I can boss you around. Sterling reached out and lightly flicked her forehead. Ouch, I already told you, I don't want you to be my brother-in-law. Chloe spun around on her heel, stubbornly refusing to look at him anymore. Meanwhile, back in the tense living room, Ara's brows were still tightly knit together. Dad, Mom, why on earth did you call him back here? Era asked, clearly seething with displeasure. Winston and Beatrice knew perfectly well that the two of them were divorced, yet they still invited Silas over anyway. It honestly felt like they were deliberately trying to make her squirm. We wanted to. Is that any of your damn business? Winston replied, his face dark as a thundercloud. Silas and I are divorced. Could you please stop calling him over all the time? Era felt a sudden, icy chill in her heart. She always felt like her own father, Winston, secretly hated her guts. She was his actual, biological daughter. Yet she always felt like Winston treated Silas like his true flesh and blood, completely ignoring her own feelings. You actually have the audacity to say that to us? Winston barked. Divorce is a massive, life-altering event. Why didn't you even bother to discuss it with us beforehand? Winston was getting angrier by the ticking second, because it is my life. Should I have to report every single detail to you? Era shot back coldly. She was a grown adult, for crying out loud. She could make her own choices, especially when it came down to her lifelong happiness. She absolutely refused to force herself to stay in a dead marriage with Silas. The person she truly loved was never Silas. How can you force love in your own life? She argued. Winston absolutely exploded. Answer me honestly, right here, right now. Have you been plotting to divorce Silas behind our backs for a long time? Yes. Ara admitted it flat out, without a single ounce of shame. I never even liked him. I only married him back then because I had absolutely no other choice. Did a dog eat your damn conscience? Winston roared. Have you completely blinded yourself to every single thing Silas sacrificed for you and this entire family? Smack! Winston slapped Ara across the face with explosive, bone-rattling force. Ara was completely stunned. Winston hadn't laid a single hand on her since she was a little kid, and the very first time he struck her as an adult, it was to defend a complete outsider. I saw what he did. But so what? Ara screamed. I don't love him, and that's the end of the story. I can't just lie to my own heart. Besides, I gave him $3 million as a divorce settlement. He certainly isn't walking away empty-handed. Era looked incredibly wronged as she cried out through her tears. She had given Silas all the compensation she possibly could, everything except for her love. She didn't feel like she owed that man anything at all. In fact, she felt like Silas had actually made a massive profit off the whole deal. 3 years of doing basic house chores in exchange for $3 million in cold, hard cash? Any sane person would take that deal in a heartbeat. Do you honestly think he stayed with you for your dirty money? Winston looked like he wanted to slap Era straight into the next dimension. $3 million? That's not even enough to cover a single month of our Lu Corporation's revenue. And you have the sheer nerve to say that out loud. Besides the $3 million, I also gave him an entire house, Ara sobbed defensively. I have given him the absolute best compensation I possibly could. What more do you want from me? Ara cried even harder, feeling increasingly victimized by her own flesh and blood. What do I want from you? Winston was practically blowing smoke out of his nose, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. I want you to remarry Silas, right this second, and as for that precious first love of yours, you can bury that thought 6 feet deep. Let me make this perfectly clear to you right now. I only acknowledge Silas as my son-in-law. Anyone else can go straight to hell. Dad, I will never, ever remarry him. I would honestly rather die. Ara gritted her teeth in defiance. Since she was a little girl, she had blindly obeyed Winston on absolutely everything. But on this one issue, absolutely not. She wanted to be reckless, to be totally selfish, for just once in her miserable life. Then go die, Winston roared, his boiling rage finally spilling over. Dad? Ara looked at him in total, shattering disbelief. She never expected Winston to be this completely, brutally unreasonable. Don't you call me Dad. I am not your dad. Don't you want to be with that Tristan guy so badly? Unless your mother and I drop dead, we will never, ever agree to it, Winston gasped, feeling like his heart was going to explode from the sheer, unadulterated anger he felt toward his own daughter. Listen to me. Even if you completely disagree, I'm still choosing him. Winston's explosive opposition only threw gasoline on Ara's rebellious fire. How on earth did we raise such a blind, lovesick fool? Did you magically forget that he was the one who dumped you in the dirt? Winston gasped, practically hyperventilating from sheer rage. He didn't abandon me. He had untold hardships that forced his hand. Ara screamed, defending Tristan with everything she had. Just get out. Get out. Get the hell out. Winston roared right back. I'll just pretend I never even had a daughter like you. Mark my words, if you ignore us now, you'll be drowning in regret until your dying breath. Winston gripped his head, feeling like his brain was literally hemorrhaging from Ara's sheer stupidity. I will never regret this. And even if I do, I'll choke down every bitter pill myself. Ara stood her ground, utterly defiant. Beatrice rubbed Winston's back in a total panic, terrified the old man was going to literally have a stroke and collapse on the spot. Ara, honey, it's not that Mom wants to yell at you, Beatrice pleaded softly, but what exactly is so wrong with Silas? Why on earth did you absolutely have to divorce him? Beatrice asked with a heavy, heartbroken sigh. Mom, I never said there was anything wrong with him. He's a great guy, truly excellent, Ara admitted, shaking her head. Then why in the world did you throw him away? Beatrice stared at her daughter with profound, crushing disappointment. 3 years ago, Ara had caught a bizarre, terrifying illness that nearly ruined her. Everyone avoided her like she was a walking plague. Only Silas stood by her side when the rest of the world ran. Under his relentless, meticulous care, Ara's condition slowly and miraculously healed. For 3 long years, Silas and Ara shared every single day and night together. Hell, even a pet rock would have caught feelings by now. I admit, back when he sacrificed everything to nurse me, I was truly deeply moved, Ara confessed. But being moved isn't love. I know exactly what I want. Ara violently shook her head. Know what you want, my foot. You are completely unworthy of Silas. Winston just couldn't hold back his furious curses anymore. At first, he genuinely wanted to force the two back together. But suddenly, he had a massive epiphany. Ara didn't deserve Silas one bit. That boy deserved 1,000,000 times better. As for Ara, let her drown in the miserable sea of her own future regrets. Mom, if we're done here, I'm leaving, Ara said coldly. Please, just take care of your health. Ara took a long, deep breath to steady herself. She knew exactly what her parents were trying to pull, but her mind was set in stone. Dragging this conversation out would only end in a pointless screaming match. Get out. Get out of my sight. Our family doesn't have a daughter like you anymore. Winston barked, literally trying to shoo her out the front door. If he had known she'd pull this stunt, he wouldn't have even let her step foot inside the house today. Mom, if there's nothing else, I think I should get going too. Sterling stepped out from the shadows of the hallway right at that tense moment. Sterling had heard every single bitter word of Ara's argument with her parents crystal clear. Deep down, he was immensely grateful that Winston and Beatrice had fought so hard for him. But some broken things are just destined to stay dead ends. Silas, hey, don't rush off just yet. Stay and have a couple of drinks with your old man, Winston called out, grabbing Sterling's arm to playfully force him to stay put. Even though Sterling and Ara were officially divorced, it didn't scratch the deep bond he shared with his former father-in-law. All right, Sterling finally agreed after a brief moment of thought. Silas, my boy, your mom and I have already talked this over. The second Chloe graduates from college, we are arranging for you two to get hitched. After downing a few heavy glasses of liquor, Winston dropped an absolute nuke of a sentence with a massive, beaming grin. Dad, please, quit messing around. How old is Chloe again? Sterling choked, nearly spraying a mouthful of burning alcohol all over the dining table. She's 18. She's no little kid anymore. She's definitely reached the perfect age to start dating if we want her to. You two can just date casually for a few years first. The moment she graduates, boom, straight to the altar. It's absolutely perfect. Winston was exceptionally proud of his little master plan. There was no way he trusted handing Chloe over to some random street punk. But handing her over to a solid guy like Sterling, he'd sleep like a baby every single night. The old man was dead set on keeping his title as Sterling's father-in-law, no matter what. Ara was a total bust, but hey, he still had his youngest daughter, Chloe. Thank God she wasn't a blind, lovesick idiot like her older sister. Dad, seriously, stop messing around. People are going to gossip like crazy, Sterling said, shaking his head with a nervous chuckle. Even though the ink was dry on his divorce with Era, he was still technically her ex-husband on paper. If the neighbors found out he hooked up with her little sister, the rumors would be absolutely unhinged. Who out there is bored enough to gossip about you, huh? Besides, you live this life for yourself, not for some peanut gallery. Why the hell do you care what other people think? Winston grumbled, starting to get slightly annoyed. Dad, come on. A matter like this has to be based on Chloe's own consent, Sterling argued, trying a much softer tactic. Winston just smiled with a mysterious, knowing gleam in his eye. Once Chloe and Sterling finally tied the knot, his ultimate mission was to hold a chubby little grandchild. We can talk about all this later, Sterling muttered, feeling the strong alcohol burning down his throat. No worries, no rush at all. We can take it nice and slow. Surprisingly, Winston didn't push him too hard on the subject. After 3 heavy rounds of drinks, the old man finally let Sterling off the hook to leave. Originally, Winston desperately wanted to force him to crash overnight, but Sterling smoothly lied, claiming he had some urgent business to handle. Winston finally threw in the towel and let him leave. Honestly, faced with an ex-father-in-law this overwhelmingly enthusiastic, Sterling was completely helpless. During the 3 years, he was married to Ara, Winston, as his father-in-law, had treated him like his own flesh and blood. If it weren't for that, Sterling would have cut ties with the old man a long time ago. The second Sterling stepped out the front door, Era materialized from the shadows. She hadn't actually left the premises at all. She had been lurking by the entrance the entire time, just waiting to corner Sterling. "Do you need something?" he asked. Sterling shot her a freezing, completely apathetic glare. "Silas, listen to me. No matter what my parents just told you, I need you to flat out reject all of it." Ara ordered, her face deadpan and utterly dead serious. "Boss, are you really that terrified I'm going to stalk you?" Sterling couldn't help but let out a dry, self-deprecating chuckle. Did Eris seriously wait out here in the dark just to warn him? Was she actually paranoid that he'd use her family's lingering affection to desperately cling to her? He wasn't nearly that pathetic. "Silas, I am being completely serious with you right now. My dad was right about exactly one thing. Giving you $3 million for a divorce settlement was definitely way too little. I will figure out a way to compensate you with more money." Era spoke with growing, desperate earnestness. "Boss Era is truly generous. Well then, I guess I should preemptively thank the great Boss Era." Sterling narrowed his eyes and flashed a sarcastic smirk. "Silas, you really don't need to speak to me in that mocking tone. I have given you all the compensation you deserve. I absolutely do not owe you a single thing. So don't even think about manipulating my family to get whatever it is you want. There is zero possibility of us ever getting back together." Ara furrowed her brows in a stern warning. "Everything the boss says is completely correct. After all, what is your high and mighty status? And what exactly is my lowly status? How would a guy like me ever dare to cross that line?" Sterling laughed, the sound dripping with pure mockery. "Silas, can you please just speak to me normally?" Ara was starting to get genuinely pissed off. She could clearly hear the heavy, dripping sarcasm lacing every single word Sterling said. "How am I not speaking normally?" Sterling retorted, his tone totally unbothered. "Silas, is acting this passive-aggressive really that entertaining for you?" Ara was noticeably fuming now. "Boss Ara completely misunderstands me. How would I ever dare?" Sterling simply flashed a cold smile, not bothering to offer a single word of explanation. "Whatever. Just stay far away from my family from now on, and stop harboring those delusional, completely unrealistic fantasies. You need to learn how to move on and look forward." "We are divorced," Era stated, her face as cold as solid ice. "The boss speaks the ultimate truth. So, are you finally finished? If there's nothing else to discuss, I'll be leaving now." Sterling wasn't the slightest bit angry. He was just completely done. "Where are you going?" "I'll give you a ride." It's pretty hard to catch a cab around this neighborhood at this hour. Ara's intense gaze suddenly softened, just a fraction. No need. I'll catch a cab, myself. I wouldn't dare trouble someone as important as you. Sterling chuckled lightly. Ara frowned deeply, but she swallowed whatever else she wanted to say. Soon enough, she arrived back at her own sprawling house. Tristan had been anxiously waiting at home for her for quite a while. So, how did the talk with your parents go? Tristan asked, his voice tight, barely able to contain his desperate, nervous impatience. It went exactly how you would expect. They want me to remarry Silas. Ara sluggishly shrugged off her heavy jacket, looking absolutely bone-deep, exhausted. Tristan immediately rushed over, eagerly reaching out to start massaging Ara's tense shoulders. Without even thinking, Ara subconsciously flinched and dodged away from his touch. Other than Silas, she rarely ever let anyone else touch her shoulders. In the past, those shoulders were exclusively reserved for Silas's soothing massages. Sorry. It's nothing. Ara shook her head to clear it. She had no idea why, but Silas's lingering shadow just kept randomly popping up in her chaotic mind. Ara. You aren't actually considering remarrying him, are you? Tristan probed, his insecurity glaringly obvious. How is that even possible? The only person I love is you. Why would I possibly remarry him? Ara shook her head firmly, instantly crushing Tristan's pathetic bout of paranoia. But I just keep feeling like you've been totally distracted lately. Tell me the truth, does it have something to do with Silas? Tristan was still visibly trembling with paranoia. It has absolutely nothing to do with him. Honestly, I'm probably just overly exhausted from work lately, Ara guessed. Very quickly, she jerked forward and sat up straight. Tristan's hands were incredibly clumsy and way too heavy. He was actually making her stiff shoulders hurt even worse. But, really, this was to be expected. Tristan wasn't Silas. He didn't have a single clue about how to actually take care of people. That was totally unlike Silas, who used to massage away her stress flawlessly every single day. Or maybe she was just far too hooked on Silas's specific, perfect technique. Now that someone else was trying to do it, everything about it just felt completely wrong. What's wrong? Tristan looked thoroughly confused and slightly hurt. It's nothing. It's getting really late. You should just go get some rest. Ara shook her head with a tired sigh. Even though she had verbally forgiven Tristan for his past mistakes, deep down in her heart, she still felt a lingering, ugly knot of resentment. You get some rest, too. Tristan smartly chose not to push it. He knew that the more crucial the moment was, the more he desperately needed to avoid acting clingy. Ara was finally starting to slowly accept him again. He had plenty of time on his hands. He could afford to take things incredibly slow. Tristan quietly walked into the guest bedroom located right next to the master suite. This exact room used to belong entirely to Silas. But now, it was his own exclusive, untouchable domain. It truly wouldn't be long before he completely annihilated every last trace of Silas's pathetic existence in Ara's heart. After all, this was the lethal, undeniable power of being her first love. Without lifting a single finger, he had already crushed countless rivals. The game was rigged from the start. The next morning, Tristan dragged himself out of bed early just to make breakfast for Ara. Timing was everything. And with so much on the line, he needed to play the role of the perfect, doting boyfriend to a T. Morning, Tristan chirped, laying the charm on thick. Hurry up and taste the breakfast I threw together for you. Ara's jaw practically hit the floor. Wait, you made all of this? She gasped, completely caught off guard. After all, Tristan came from crazy old money, just like she did. A filthy rich heir actually rolling up his sleeves to cook for her? It fed her ego perfectly, leaving her blushing and totally flattered. To her, it was ironclad proof that he truly cared deep down. It's my first time ever cooking, Tristan admitted with a sheepish grin. I have zero clue if it's actually edible, he said, flashing a $1 million smile. But hey, the taste doesn't matter, right? The fact that you put your heart into it is more than enough for me, Ara cooed, feeling completely swept off her feet. Funny how, when Silas had slaved away over a hot stove for her every single day, she hadn't felt a shred of this gratitude. Women always say true love is found in the little details. But let's be real, the breakfast Tristan slapped together for Ara was a total, half-assed joke. 2 charred fried eggs, some dry toast, and a glass of milk. Honestly, a golden retriever could have whipped up a better meal, but none of that mattered. Ara ate the pathetic act right up. In her delusional eyes, as long as Tristan tried, she was on cloud 9. Come on, take a bite, Tristan urged, playing the perfect gentleman as he pulled out her chair. Ara eagerly picked up her fork and stabbed the sad fried egg. She took one bite. It wasn't radioactive, but her brow immediately furrowed in disgust. You see, this spoiled princess had a very strict set of rules. Her fried eggs absolutely had to be cooked to exactly 70% doneness. 1 degree over or 1 degree under? Utter garbage to her. What's wrong? Is it that bad? Tristan asked, catching her struggle to swallow the rubbery bite. No, it has nothing to do with you. It's just a me problem. Ara quickly deflected, shaking her head before reaching for her milk. But the glass was so insanely hot it practically burned her lips off. Yep, Ara had another high-maintenance quirk. Her milk had to be served at exactly 30% warmth. Too hot or too cold was an unforgivable crime that completely wrecked her appetite. In reality, the only reason she had these insanely bizarre diva-level standards was because Silas had completely spoiled her rotten. Silas was the only man on Earth who had the patience to memorize every single one of this ungrateful princess's eccentric demands. Left with no choice, she settled for choking down the dry, plain toast just to stop her stomach from growling. Honestly, it wasn't even her being overly picky this time. Tristan's cooking was just straight-up trash. It just goes to show, give 2 different men the exact same ingredients, and you get wildly different results. That was the glaring difference between a man pouring his absolute soul into caring for her and a fake just going through the motions. I'm so sorry. Like I said, first-time jitters. Tristan sighed, slapping on a painfully fake, apologetic pout. It's totally fine. You did amazing. Really. Elara cheered, bending over backward to validate him. The tragic irony? If Silas had served her this garbage, her patience would be 0. She would have slammed her fork down and stormed off in a raging tantrum. After wrapping up that miserable breakfast, Elara and Tristan sped straight over to the Blossom Corporation headquarters. Ever since word broke out that boss Sterling was dropping a jaw-dropping $30 billion investment, Elara and Tristan had been practically drooling over the massive payday. Elara? What on earth are you doing here? Fiona blinked, utterly stunned. It was the first time this brat had ever voluntarily stepped foot in the office. Is young Master Sterling inside? Elara asked in a hushed, desperate tone. Her one and only mission today was to hunt the elusive billionaire down. Boss Sterling is indeed inside. Fiona rolled her eyes internally. She knew damn well Elara wasn't here just to catch up. Elara was an opportunistic shark circling Sterling's wealth. Can I go in and see him right now? Elara pressed softly. You could, but you're a bit late to the party. Boss Sterling is currently hosting a major VIP inside, Fiona whispered back cautiously. Do you have any idea who it is? Elara frowned, completely thrown off. She thought she had beaten the morning rush. To think someone actually beat her to the punch, but honestly, it made total sense. After all, the entire South River province was crawling with greedy vultures, all desperately circling this massive $30 billion carcass. What was one more rival in this shark tank? I think it's the CEO of Colorful Horizon, Fiona murmured directly into her ear. Wait, even the CEO of Colorful Horizon is here, Elara gasped, her face instantly draining of color. Colorful Horizon was a total titan, easily ranking in the top 3 most ruthless enterprises in the entire South River province. While they didn't have the absolute, god-tier status of the Shen family, they were still an absolute juggernaut. A cold spike of pure panic shot straight through Ara's veins. If an apex predator, like the CEO of Colorful Horizon, was already in the room, did she even stand a snowball's chance in hell at snagging a piece of that $30 billion? She took a sharp breath, forcing the rising terror down. She'd just have to let fate take the wheel. Besides, she wasn't asking for the moon. Even if she couldn't swallow the whole pie, just scraping up a few crumbs from the table would be a life-changing victory. Fiona, come on. Could you please pull some strings and sneak me just a tiny fraction of that investment? Elara begged, practically vibrating with desperation. Fiona was Sterling's personal secretary, the ultimate gatekeeper to the throne. If anyone had the absolute power to hook her up with a backdoor deal, it was her. Look, Elara, you're expecting way too much from me, Fiona sighed. I'm literally just Boss Sterling's personal secretary. When it comes to massive decisions like this, the boss pulls all the strings himself. I have absolutely 0 power to interfere here, Fiona added, shaking her head with absolute finality. Sure, Sterling treated her surprisingly well, and that was a fact. But at the end of the day, she was still just a secretary. How on earth could a mere desk worker dictate corporate moves worth billions of dollars? Is there really no other way around this? Elara pleaded, utterly refusing to throw in the towel. Boss Sterling is right inside that room. Why don't you just go in there and talk to him yourself in a bit? Fiona suggested, flashing a completely helpless, sympathetic look. All right. Fine then. Seeing Fiona's strained reaction, Elara definitively decided to back off and stop pressuring the poor girl. Not even a few minutes later, the CEO of Colorful Horizon strutted out of the office. His face was totally plastered with this ecstatic, overwhelmingly triumphant smirk. Wait. Did he actually manage to secure Sterling's investment? Judging by that cocky demeanor, the guy had definitely just scored a massive victory. Otherwise, there was no way he'd be looking like he just won the Mega Million lottery. Ara originally wanted to politely greet him, but the arrogant CEO didn't even spare her a single glance, as he breezed right past her. Just as expected in this ruthless corporate world, the massive chasm in their social status wasn't something that could be magically bridged with a simple hello. Honestly, even her own father had to bow his head respectfully whenever he saw this man, let alone a struggling junior like her. "Ara, you can go ahead and head in now," Fiona gently reminded her. Ara took a deep, shaky breath to steady her nerves and bravely stepped inside, while Tristan practically scrambled to follow right on her heels. "To what do I owe the absolute pleasure of Boss Era's visit today?" Sterling drawled. He was casually lounging on the sofa, his dark eyes calmly and intensely staring her down. She honestly had no idea why, but every single time Sterling spoke, his chilling tone of voice instantly reminded Ara of her supposedly broke ex, Silas. "I must be totally overthinking this," she told herself. Silas was completely broke and destitute. How could a loser like him possibly be a high-ranking member of the elite capital Sterling family? Era couldn't help but shake her head aggressively to clear the crazy thoughts. She just prayed to God that her wild, creeping suspicions were entirely wrong. "Young Master Sterling, you seriously flatter me. Please, just call me by my real name or simply call me Little Lou," she replied, forcing a polite smile. Ara proactively lowered her own status straight to the floor in front of a supreme corporate titan like Sterling. How could she ever dare to call herself a boss in his presence? "There's no need for false modesty here," Sterling noted. "Boss Era, if you have business to discuss, just speak plainly," Sterling commanded, remaining completely aloof and terrifyingly relaxed. After hesitating for a tense split second, Ara finally decided to just bite the bullet and lay all her cards out on the table. "Young Master Sterling, the situation is like this. Could you possibly consider investing just a little bit of capital into our Lu Corporation? I promise I'm not asking for much. Just $1 billion will do." $1 billion is indeed not that much at all. As Boss Era surely knows, $1 billion is absolutely nothing to a guy like me. Sterling smiled, a faint, dangerous smirk playing on his lips. "Oh my God, there is actually a chance." Ara felt an immediate, overwhelming surge of wild joy explode in her chest, because it was exactly like Sterling said. Throwing away $1 billion was mere pocket change to a monster like him. But to her struggling Lu Corporation, that kind of money was equivalent to several agonizing years of pure, hard-earned profit. "So, does this mean young Master Sterling actually agrees to the deal?" Ara's voice literally trembled with barely contained excitement. "Investing $1 billion into the Lu Corporation is absolutely no problem at all. But tell me, what exactly can you give me in return?" Sterling stared deeply, his unwavering gaze locking right onto her eyes. "The Lu family can absolutely guarantee you perfectly punctual annual dividends," Era blurted out instantly, eager to please. "If I can casually toss out $1 billion in a single breath, do you honestly think I give a damn about the Lu family's pitiful, microscopic little dividends?" Sterling let out a dark, mocking chuckle that sent shivers down her spine. "Then, what exactly does young Master Sterling want from me?" Ara asked, her voice dropping into a tense, nervous whisper. "If you desperately want to receive something of value, you must be willing to sacrifice something in return. Boss Ara is a highly intelligent woman. Such a painfully simple principle surely doesn't require me to spell it all out for you, does it?" Sterling's dark eyes remained locked onto Ara with an unmistakable predatory intensity. In a terrifying instant, Ara completely understood the dirty hidden meaning behind Sterling's cryptic words. Just as I expected, all men are pathetic slaves to their own lust. Sterling obviously had his predatory eyes set dead on her body, and to think she had naively always assumed that the great Sterling was some kind of perfect, honorable gentleman. But when she paused to think about it from a slightly different angle, her own beauty was undeniably refined, almost otherworldly. Honestly, it was completely natural for a guy like Sterling to be tempted by her charms. After all, so many cutthroat industries had their dark unspoken rules and shady hidden transactions. For the desperate sake of saving the Lu family, as long as Sterling didn't do anything way too extreme, she could swallow her pride and accept his terms. "Young Master Sterling, I understand exactly what you mean," she breathed. "As long as young Master Sterling is truly willing to invest in my family's company, I will personally make sure you are thoroughly satisfied." Ara fiercely gritted her teeth, bracing herself for whatever was about to happen next. As long as she simply went through with this, Sterling would willingly pour a river of money right into the Lu family. "You truly are a very smart woman," Sterling smirked, nodding in dark approval. Then, he coldly shifted his intimidating gaze over to Tristan, who was standing awkwardly nearby. Could I ask you to step outside for a moment? Sterling asked. What the hell are you planning to do to Aura? Tristan snapped back. Tristan instantly descended into a full-blown panic. He wasn't stupid by any means. The guy fully understood the dirty, unspoken rules of this industry too. Sterling aggressively demanding that he leave the room meant absolutely nothing good was about to happen. Sterling was obviously planning a very in-depth, highly private negotiation with Elara. What exactly do you think I'm planning to do with her? Sterling sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. Aura, listen to me. This guy is definitely up to no good. You absolutely cannot agree to whatever this is, Tristan pleaded, getting noticeably more frantic by the second. Tristan, just step outside for a moment. Young Master Sterling and I have some private business to discuss, Elara ruthlessly ordered, her voice as cold as absolute frost. How could she not know exactly what Sterling was after? It was basically an unspoken agreement at this point. A willing buyer and a desperate seller. Fine. I'll wait for you outside, Tristan muttered, his fists clenching white, knuckled in helpless, burning rage. Young Master Sterling, it's just the two of us now. Whatever you want to do, just get it over with. Aura squeezed her eyes shut, her trembling fingers slowly unbuttoning her blouse. Deep down, she couldn't help but merge this billionaire's face with Silas, her ex-husband. She had been married to Silas for 3 long years. She knew she owed Silas some serious payback for how things ended. And Sterling? He was a dead ringer for her ex, not to mention insanely gorgeous. Twisting it that way in her head, Aura actually felt a whole lot better about selling herself out. Her guilty conscience finally caught a break. As long as this cocky billionaire didn't demand anything too totally twisted, she could handle it. Boss, Elara, what on earth are you doing? I just kept you behind for a friendly little chat, Sterling sneered, his face dripping with pure, mocking amusement. I know it's getting warm outside, but even you are starting to act like a desperate cat in heat. You specifically told me to stay, wasn't it? For this? Aura stammered, absolutely mortified and frozen in shock. Did she completely misread the room? Was this mega-rich elite actually a decent guy? Hey, you're giving yourself way too much credit, lady. With my bank account, I could hire an entire battalion of supermodels. If I wanted a woman, is there anyone on this planet I couldn't have? Sterling scoffed, his voice dripping with icy, cutting contempt. And honestly, he wasn't exaggerating one bit. If this guy snapped his fingers, endless hordes of stunning women would literally trample each other to throw themselves at his feet. Aura was nothing but a pathetic drop in the ocean. Young Master Sterling, what exactly do you want from me then? Humiliated, Aura could only bite her lip and frantically button her blouse back up. She knew he wasn't bluffing. With his god-tier status, thousands of girls would kill to warm his bed. She really hadn't expected this to be just one massive, embarrassing ego trip on her end. Do you see that outfit over there? Sterling casually pointed a finger at a folded piece of fabric resting on the glass table. Aura gave a slow, hesitant nod. I had that prepared specifically for you, Sterling purred, a wickedly dark smile spreading across his face. You actually want me to wear that? Aura's face instantly drained of all color. What? Not feeling up to it? Sterling fired back, offering absolutely zero mercy. If you're not willing, then just forget it. Pretend I never asked. But as for that investment you were just begging for, $1 billion is pocket change to me. But since you refuse to play ball, I absolutely will not drop a single dime on your company. There's the door. Leave. Fine. I'll wear it. Elara gritted her teeth so hard they practically cracked. For the survival of the Liu family, she had no choice but to swallow her pride. She had to endure the ultimate, gut-wrenching humiliation of stripping down and changing right under Sterling's mocking, predatory gaze. They always say that the richer the man, the more insanely twisted his kinks get. Turns out, it was absolutely spot on. Damn it. And to think she actually believed he might be a decent guy. Turns out, he was way more twisted than all the creeps combined. If this were Silas, he'd never, ever treat me like trash, she thought. But Sterling, watching her, had to admit one thing: his ex-wife's figure was genuinely top tier. No wonder she was ranked as one of the top 3 absolute beauties in South River Province. Before long, she stood there fully dressed in a skimpy French maid outfit. So, I heard Boss Elara has an ex-husband who looks exactly like me. Is that true? Sterling casually threw out the question, totally enjoying watching her squirm in humiliation. It's true. He looks incredibly similar to you. Aura didn't even bother dodging the question. She had nothing left to hide anyway, and honestly, half the city already knew the gossip. She couldn't cover it up even if she tried. Then, in Boss Ara's expert opinion, how do I stack up against your loser ex? Sterling asked, his eyes narrowing into a dangerous, icy glare. He's just an ordinary nobody. But you, young Master Sterling, are a total dragon among men. There is absolutely zero comparison. Ara spit out the answer without even a split second of hesitation. Then, did it ever cross your mind that I might actually be your ex-husband? Sterling smirked, his tone thick with cryptic danger. I did suspect it at first. But a man like you and him, you couldn't possibly be the same person, Ara whispered weakly. Of course she had her doubts. But that's all they were. She had absolutely zero concrete proof. Plus, this Sterling was the untouchable heir to the capital's most terrifyingly powerful family. And Silas married into her family as a completely broke, pathetic nobody. She knew that bitter truth better than anyone alive. Seriously, how could some trash-tier nobody just magically transform into the ruthless heir of the country's wealthiest empire? But what if I really am your ex-husband? Sterling pressed, flashing a chilling, dead-eyed smile. Young Master Sterling, please, stop messing with me. Ara didn't believe a single word falling from his lips. All right, I'll stop playing around. But if you want my $1 billion investment, and get on your knees. Sterling's command cracked like a whip, his face suddenly dead and utterly devoid of emotion. Ara bit her bottom lip so hard, it actually bled, her shaking legs slowly sinking down to the plush carpet. Things had already spiraled way past the point of no return. She had zero options left. If she totally chickened out now, every single ounce of her brutal humiliation and desperate effort would be tossed straight into the garbage. Boss Ara, you really are quite obedient, aren't you? Sterling smirked coldly. Young Master Sterling, do you have any further instructions? Feel free to speak plainly, Ara replied, her eyebrows furrowing tight. If it was just this petty level of humiliation, she could endure it. My shoes are looking a little dusty. How about you use some of that elbow grease and polish them clean for me? Sterling smiled sadistically. Okay. Shockingly, Ara actually bent down and began wiping his shoes clean. Even Sterling was stunned. He hadn't fully expected her to actually go through with it. Young Master Sterling, is there anything else you need? At this moment, Ara looked like a perfectly tamed, obedient kitten, even though her eyes were absolutely brimming with suppressed grievance. Just endure it. As long as I survive this, I'll get his $1 billion investment. No matter how much he humiliates me, I just have to swallow my pride. But unfortunately, Sterling's brutal revenge was actually going to be